Greetings. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. No, you don't have to keep that treat refrigerated. Welcome, everybody. Hold. Hello and welcome, everybody. This is kind of like our. Hold up, let me turn this thing up. So my lives, my Ask Me Anythings are kind of like a fundraiser for the umpteen, God knows how many dollars we have to raise to open up our new chicken processing facility and packing facility. So as usual, super chats are always answered and appreciated greatly. Every dollar is a dollar I don't have to raise from investors and give up control. So, appreciate y'all. Thank you, Jonathan Budd Jr., for donating the first gift. Thank you for the creepy bowl of ramen. Thank you, Caramel Lucifer, for the gift. There was something I was supposed to do. Hold on. Let's see. Thank you, Darth Blackstar. Thoughts on the Graham Planter downfall? I don't know much about that dude. Hold on one second. What I heard. Let me look this up right now. Graham Planter, the 2026 Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate in Maine, officially withdrew from the race on July 10th, 2026, following severe backlash and the loss of key endorsements after a former girlfriend accused him of sexual nastiness. Yeah. Well, can't say I approve of any candidate who does sexual nastiness. So, bye-bye. Thank you, Felix Menendez. Uncle alert. Damn. Somebody said, tell me about the ducks. I'll tell you about the ducks. I don't have ducks anymore because they're crazy. Duck poop is like solid water. It's gross. Ducks don't believe in consent. They grape each other all day long. The meat is delicious, but extremely difficult to get to. They have 3 times as many feathers as chickens. And they don't come off as well because they have more oil for waterproofing for obvious reasons. Processing ducks is one of the most miserable experiences I've had on any farm ever. And I don't wish to repeat it for any reason. That's what's up with the ducks. Motor oil bids recently. No, I have not. Let's see. Hi, I don't know if you read your super chats. I basically only read the super chats because they're the only ones I can keep up with because they're color coded and easy to find. And also, your $5 offsets $5 I would need to raise from an investor for the chicken processing factory of the future. So thank you. Don't know if you read super chats, but I'm too far away to buy eggs or chicken, so I want to drop some cash here for entertainment. Thank you so much, Trans Snack. See what else we got here. City Dawn says thank you for feeding those without too. You are very welcome. It is my pleasure. Timothy Gallagher says, just want to thank you for all the hours of entertainment. I'm in North Carolina, so when you expand this far, I'll be buying your food. Any thoughts on Lindsey Graham getting the day he deserves? Yeah. Oh boy, just like there was a clip of him saying that he's he's with Israel until his dying day. Sometimes you shouldn't tempt fate by saying shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Damn. I hate to laugh, but he just said horrible things and gloried in the deaths of others. So it's very hard to give a shit. You know what I mean? What else we got here? Thank you, everybody. Let's see. Somebody just says, Celador21 says, just took my daughter to her first powwow, trying to show her where part of her came from and teach her the Anishinaabe language. Do you take your families to powwow? Do you take your family to powwows? I do. Well, I haven't taken them to one yet. That part is coming soon. They've been taught to dance. They've had regalia made for them. They know the procedures and everything like that. But bringing them into the circle requires giveaways and all this other stuff that we haven't been in a position to do yet. So long story short, their first one will be the BAIC for the Baltimore powwow in November. That'll be their first one. I personally have not been to one in God forever. You just got a Kroger ad. How much do you bench, squat, and deadlift? Bench, honestly, I'm not sure. Because I don't really do, I don't like the flat bench. For incline, I did incline barbell reps maybe 2 weeks ago. I usually use dumbbells, and I do 100-pound dumbbells on the incline bench for dumbbells. For barbells, I think I did like 180. I forget how many reps because I do different stuff pretty much every week. Deadlifts, I don't really deadlift because I've got really long legs. I'm tall. Like deadlifts are hard for tall people just to begin with, but even for a tall guy, I've got very long legs even for somebody my height. So deadlifts are really hard on my back, no matter how much you watch your form. So I tend to do rack pulls or stiff-legged deadlifts or big, freaking ham curls, like anything but deadlifts. It's too much stress. Too much stress on the lower back. So yeah, I can't remember the last time I deadlifted. Squats. Last week, I think I did like 3 sets at 290. I think it was 290 by 3 by 10. I generally don't lift anywhere near as heavy as I can because I'm older. I'm prone to injury. So I try not to go crazy on things. What made you choose the Patrick Warburton-like voice? Oh yeah, that's an issue. So I was a big fan of that character, and saying yeah, that's right is something I say at home a lot, and it just kind of carried over into one of my TikToks one time. And that, like, this one TikTok where I did the voice the whole time just really took off. So I just kept doing it. And then the rest is history. Warte aus wie Hefja. Hold. I'd really love to hear you excitedly info dump about your plans for the chicken processing facility. Sure. There is a 55,000 square foot facility that was an Herbalife factory, of all things, that's in Warsaw, Virginia. It has been for sale for at least a year. Because it was an Herbalife food processing facility, it is basically tailor-made for what we want to do with it, which is initially to process about 250,000 broilers, pasture broilers per year, but ultimately over 1 million per year. It has all the space we would need for slaughter, butcher, pack, value add, like all the pet treat stuff, all the mutual aid stuff we do, human edible, like ready to eat foods, frozen meals, stuff like that. It's well located to where our current employees are. Lots of parking, lots of space, has office space, has reception areas, it's everything we would ever need for the size we want the business to eventually be. The only issue is like how exactly do we grow into it? And being able to grow into it becomes a lot less of a challenge if we're able to pay basically cash for it, because then we don't have to figure out like how do we pay debt service on it. Or conversely, we don't have to bring in $3-ish million worth of investment and give up that much equity in order to buy it outright. So anyway, yeah, it's one of those things where it's a nice opportunity if it remains available long enough. I don't think it's going anywhere. We are basically in a recession. People can deny it all they want, but I see what capital's doing right now, and it's very much acting like a recession. But yeah, I anticipate it's gonna stay, and while it stays, we're gonna keep operating out of our little crab shack and just get our margins as thick as we can. Keep paying our guys more, but also trying to sock away enough so that we can pay for as much of this thing ourselves as we can, so we don't give up any control of the company to scale up. So that's pretty much all I've got about it so far. But yeah, it's basically like a big magic number. Like we need probably about $3 to $4 million in the bank to be able to do what we want to do straight out right. Brendan McKenna says the ferrets say hi and thanks for the chicken feed. You the one that sent me the videos, ain't you? Yeah, that was fantastic. I sent that to Mason. He thought it was the funniest thing you've ever seen. Oksana74, love your channel. Would love to order by Wyoming. There's like 5 people in Wyoming, and you're one of them. I appreciate you. Let's see what else we got here. Thrashley says, I live in Maryland and found you recently. Can't wait to make a visit to the farm store and order. You and the crew are amazing. Much love to you and the family from Gaithersburg. Thank you. Appreciate you. See, the tawniest said, did you like the t-shirt? Didn't know your size. T-shirt. I'm trying to remember if I got a t-shirt. I'll have to ask Mason if he picked it up. So when people send stuff to the shop, I'm usually not there. Mason might have like grabbed it and stuck it on a shelf, and I haven't seen it. So I will look for a package that came addressed to me, and if I find a t-shirt, I will wear it on my next live. Let's see. Forgot to say, love your videos, and if you ever do merch, I would love 20-ounce mugs with what is it now? And yeah, that's right on them. Brian will do that. Absolutely. Let's see what else we got here. Goodness, people are. So we got on here late, and I thought nobody was going to say anything. I need to look up something because I promised somebody I was going to respond to some. So somebody wrote a Substack about what went horribly wrong the first time I tried to do an agricultural co-op. It was bad. Let me see if I still have it. Is this it? Yeah. Okay, wait. I think that's it. All right. So yeah, I'll like slowly go through this. So basically, when I went through my first co-op, a whole bunch of people, especially like on the far left, were like real happy to like have somebody to feast on their flesh or whatever, because the left always eats itself, right? Somebody wrote an essay, wrote a Substack. Bitch, did Joel Salatin pay you to smear Chris Newman, aka the beige farmer? So why Chris Newman is just protecting his market share while Joel Salatin is unequivocally a fucking scammer. Goddamn. Tell him how you feel. Look at this. We have family board games night. Family board game nights. Do y'all play family games? We like Power Hungry Pets, the company that made Exploding Kittens. That's the dude from the oatmeal, right? We don't really do board game nights, and we should. I play chess with my youngest daughter all the time, and she's good. Like she's played me to a draw several times, and she's freaking 9. She is very, very smart. We don't do family game nights. I've played blackjack with the kids. I've played war with them. I've taught them how to play tonk. It's like we do stuff, but we have not played board games because we don't really have board games. But that's not a bad idea at all, honestly. We also don't do it a lot because the two of them are like really into their own shit. Betty's just like her mother and is always into like making potions and teas and tinctures, and like she's a little witch. And Marion is very much in her own head. Like she's like I was as a kid, like making these worlds in her head all the time. It does not like to be disturbed because she's autistic, and like don't fuck with me while I'm world building in my skull. So maybe, let's see. Watch the documentary Kiss the Dirt on Netflix. After it was over, went to check on the methods they proposed to discover, and it's already been defunded by the government. Was it Kiss the Ground? I remember Kiss the Ground. I remember watching it, and I remember laughing my ass off. Was that the one that had like all the damn celebrities in it? If that's the one I'm thinking about, like it had Woody Harrelson in it, Tom Brady was in it, freaking everybody was in it, and there was so much wrong with it. But God, it was years ago, and I barely remember it now. Let's see. Gengar022 asks, hey man, thank you for what you do and the content you're making. So if I want your products when I'm from Massachusetts, what do I do? Just travel out there? Is there a midway option? Regardless, thanks for what you're doing. Yeah, if you're like way out of state, pet treats and merch ship nationwide. If you're looking for food, yeah, you'd either have to, like if you're up north, the closest we deliver to you midpoint would be like Baltimore. So you'd have to have like a buddy in Baltimore that we could deliver to, and then you can pick it up whenever you want. Or if for some reason you're ever making a trip down south of DC, we're about 90 minutes south of DC, in Oak Grove, Virginia. Thank you, Ebon Vale Concord, for the $5 donation to the Chicken Factory of Tomorrow. The one mighty panda asks, how many chickens would you need for a family of 4, and how much land do they require? That depends on how much chicken you eat. If you got a family of 4, my family goes through like 2 chickens a week, so call that like 100 chickens just to call it even. You can do 2 8x8 pens. No, that's too small. Maybe 3 8x8 pens, 4 if you want to make it real easy to move them. Let's call it 4, like 4 8x8 pens. Those are taking up 64 square feet. Old. 64 square feet each. You got 4 of them. It's 256. Those are going to move for 35 days. It's going to be 9,000 divided by 44,000. That's about a fifth of an acre. Plus like a little shed for brooding. So it doesn't take that much space. Maybe multiply that by 50%. Because usually you're not going to have a perfect square. So call it a third of an acre. Yeah, to raise like 100 birds to stick in your freezer. Again, assuming you eat as much chicken as I do, because my family eats a lot of chicken, so it can be different. My sister gets her eggs from hens, but she also has a rooster. I'm afraid she's feeding me fertilized eggs. It's possible, but if she's collecting them every day and you eat them pretty quick, it's not really going to matter. So yeah, you're probably fine. Let's see. Thrashley asks, and do you want your girls to carry on the farm? I love when you include your wife and your girls. You can see the pride and the love. What I don't want is for my kids to feel obligated to like carry on dad's thing. If if they want to get involved, they can. I mean, our farm isn't set up like a family farm, right? It's basically it's not a corporation, but it's a multi-member LLC. So I have 4 partners. So and that's by design, right? I talk a lot about how I think estate farming and having these individual farms producing raw commodities out of the ground is fundamentally not a great idea. I don't think it produces a particularly resilient agriculture, people-centered agriculture, any of it. So if one of my daughters or both of my daughters wants to be involved with the farm, they certainly can be, but there's no pressure or expectation that they will. I would be surprised. Like my youngest daughter in particular has she wants to be involved because she likes to work with me, right? It's like she's a daddy's girl. She likes to be around daddy all the time. I'm very lucky in that respect. But I think a lot of her wanting to do that is about being close to me and not so much necessarily about the farm itself. And part of that's because I work so much. So once I'm not there, maybe the interest is there, maybe it's not. But there's in either case, there's no pressure for her to be involved because the farm is, we're going to bring on new people who are going to become managers, executives, things like that. There's going to be people who are going to carry it on one way or another. So I'm not there's very little pressure on me. Coming at that from the opposite end to think, oh God, I need one of my kids to carry on this thing or it will die. Like that pressure is not going to be there. Let's see. Angie asks, how to know eggs from local farms are good or reputable, or is it just better regardless because it's not from a grocery store? Or Sprouts eggs the same thing as high production? Sorry, dumb question. No, that is not a dumb question. When you're buying from independent farms, you are to a degree taking your life in your hands. Because you don't know what they're doing. Like I've had that issue when we've tried to cooperate with other farmers and buy eggs in from other farmers to basically help them out, to give them an easy sale point and things like that. You don't know who's refrigerating, who's not refrigerating. You don't know who's washing, who's not washing. You don't know who's candling. You don't necessarily know how long people are storing things before they go. You don't know what the expiration and best buy dates are. You don't know any of that stuff. With a small farm, you're assuming you're getting something basically fresh out of the chicken's cloaca, but a lot of times that's not the case. So most farmers will be perfectly honest about that if you ask them, especially if it's like neighbors or people with a farm stand at the end of the driveway or whatever. But small farmers are just as likely to do some shisty stuff as industry because they're trying to make money, or in a lot of cases they're just trying not to lose money. So in terms of just checking for quality, generally the quality is going to be better, just because the eggs are usually going to be fresher. In the United States, when eggs get to the grocery store, they're usually 30 days old by the time they get there. And they've gone a lot farther. They've been in a cold chain a lot longer. So generally the quality be better, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes the eggs will be fertilized. Farmers can be freaking weird, man. There's this intersection with the raw milk, don't regulate anything, anti-vax kind of side, and a lot of those people don't believe in food safety. They don't believe in things that keep people safe. And they'll get away with it for a while, just like a drunk driver might get away with driving drunk for a while, until they don't, and then it's whoever hears about it. So most of the farmers you find at farmers markets will be reputable enough. And if you ever want to make sure your eggs are good, just put them in a bowl of water. Make sure they don't float. That's kind of your last resort. The One Mighty Pen asked, do you hatch your own chicks or do we buy them? We buy our chicks. Getting into hatching is it's its own business. People have this idea of, old MacDonald breeds his own animals and does everything from from insemination all the way through to slaughter. That is not the case. Hatching chicks, raising chicks, breeding chickens is a highly specialized and very difficult, very technical thing to do, especially at any kind of scale. We're not homesteaders. Like we're much bigger than that. So that's not something that's really practical for us to do where we're at right now. At some point, if we decide we want to control our own genetics and stuff like that, we might, but that's just not the case at the moment. Let's see where we go here. Nikki Rich says, I don't have a question. Just wanted to say I love your content. Just wanted to show support. Thank you so much for donating $50 to the Chicken Factory of Tomorrow, so we don't have to grab another $50 from an investor who will ask us to do shit that we don't want to do. The Pale Blood Sorcerer says, plans to expand to the Carolinas. I'd love to order from your shop, and I'm a little out of range. So our expansion plan is, so we have a nice problem right now, which is that we sell out of everything all the time, which is something we're trying to quickly stop doing, because eventually people go to your website long enough and you're out of stuff and they just stop coming to your website because you're always out of stuff. So we're trying to avoid that as much as we can. So as we expand right now, we're sending food to DC, Maryland, Virginia. We're initially going to expand to our neighbors to the north and south. So we'll start with probably Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and maybe North Carolina. We're going to start with the bigger states, just so that each production increase we do, which we are doing, will immediately be absorbed. We don't like to grow stuff and not know whether or not it's going to sell or go out. That will reach into North Carolina, at least North Carolina, maybe not South Carolina, before we start targeting bigger states like New York, Ohio, Texas, California. So soon, yes, probably North Carolina, I'd say by 2028, I think we'll be there. What else we got here? Fix X Nerd. Just wanted to say thank you. The chicken is delicious. I'm sure the steaks will be too. And discussion points are always excellent. Keep up the great work. And WWW, thank you for allowing us to feed you and or your family. Jenny F1 Low says, I really wished I knew you could eat chickens when I was growing up. We had some really mean Rhode Island Reds that would peck you for anything. Yeah, that's a yeeting. Yeah, you peck me, you going airborne. I ain't got time for that. Nope. Directly into the air. And like I've told people, I think they kind of like it, because like I will throw a chicken up in the air, they buck off into the atmosphere or whatever, and they land, they come right back. It's like a thrill ride. It's like, I can't wait to do it again. Throw me, please. Anyhow, going back to this article real quick. Let's see. Homegirl says, Joel Salatin is a genuine phenomenon. That needs to be said clearly before anything else, not because he deserves credit, but because understanding what he sells requiring understanding why people buy it. He spent decades, get out of here, Ad. He has spent decades telling people that food production can be different, that the land can be treated as something other than a resource to extract from, that animals can live and die in ways that respect their nature, that the relationship between farmer, land, and consumer can be direct, honest, and mutual. 17 books, congressional testimony, spread in the New York Times Magazine, starring role in Michael Pollan's landmark work on alternative agriculture. The farming methods he advocates, holistic management, rotational grazing, pasture-based poultry, direct-to-consumer sales, have genuine ecological merit. This is real. The ecology is not the scam. The scam is the franchise. The scam is selling these methods as replicable by anyone with enough grit and vision, while quietly omitting the specific structural conditions that make his version of it work. 550 acres of inherited Virginia farmland, decades to build a customer base, below market intern labor worth hundreds of thousands of dollars paid at $500 a head, and a book deal that makes the farming itself almost incidental to the income. Maybe. The scam is what happens when people who don't have those conditions try to follow his advice anyway. And the scam is what happens when someone points that out. That someone is Chris Newman. That's me. And this is the story of what happened next. I don't know that Joel, I don't know how much he's making from his books. I'm sure it's a decent amount. The amount of money that Joel is making from his farms, however, is non-trivial, right? Just because I've seen how many head of cattle he has, and I don't think he's a bullshit artist in that way. There's a lot of people that are like using a farm as a prop and kind of like sort of pointing at it, but damn near everything about their money making comes from selling courses, selling master classes, consulting, like shit like that. Joel, for all my criticisms of him, is a genuine businessman. He's kind of like a both and guy. Like he's running a for real no shit agribusiness, and he's also doing the book stuff, doing the tours, doing the agritourism, the camps, like all that stuff. So I don't necessarily think that part of it is what makes him a problem. It's what was mentioned earlier, which is the thing he sells in his book, that anybody can do it, and don't look at the advantages I started out with. I think it's fine for him to be kind of blind to that. Like we don't realize how much we have until we don't have it. It's kind of like, healthy people who've never been sick don't realize how important it is to be healthy. But yeah, it's been pointed out to him, and his reactions have been less than mature. So yeah, I don't know. There's something about him and a lot of people who are like him. They find a lot of shame in the idea that they've had advantages that aren't necessarily deserved. And I think a lot of Americans in particular have a hard time not feeling guilty about that. And it's a shame, because I think if more people were given things, they'd be nicer and more charitable, and the world would be less shitty. Let me scroll down to a couple more. Does grocery store meat get frozen and unfrozen a bunch of times before it reaches the consumer? If so, why? And what about your meat? It shouldn't happen, but sometimes it does. If it happened all the time, all grocery store meat would be terrible all the time. But as much as it would be self-serving for me to say, yes, it's always terrible, buy from me and no one else but me, that's just not true. It can happen. It can be mishandled. You can have new people that fuck shit up. Things happen, but it is generally not part of the process to freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw. Because butchers at the grocery store know what that does. Our meat, no, that does not happen. Just finished The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. Any book recommendations for a well-meaning gringo looking to up his knowledge? The Wayfinders by Wade Davis. People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. Can Democracy Survive Global Capitalism by Robert Kuttner. 1491 by Charles Mann. There's another one that it's escaping my head right now. Fucking goddamn it. Where are all my books? Damn it. Here's one that's on my bookshelf right now. Ordeal of Longhouse. Daniel Richter. Decent book. James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain. Very critical read. Let's see, what else? If you woke up tomorrow with $1 trillion, I would probably lose my shit. If you woke up tomorrow with $1 trillion, what would be the first thing you'd do for your local community and staff? If I woke up with $1 trillion in my bank account, my first call would be to my accountant and my attorneys to see how much I would actually keep, and like what that would look like from a practical perspective. What I would do after that, I don't know. I haven't had a lot of time to think about like what exactly would you do with that amount of money. there's a strong chance that I would set aside 90% of it for a Mackenzie Scott style fund everything forever kind of deal. Like, the thing, the interesting thing about Mackenzie Scott, just Jeff Bezos's ex-wife, when she split from Jeff Bezos, I forget how many billions of dollars she inherited. It was, I think, close to 40 billion or something. It was a freaking lot. She's donated, like she's trying to get rid of it. It's almost like she's donating it like she's trying to get rid of it. She's donated, I think, nearly $30 billion. And now she's worth more than she was when she started, despite giving away well over half of what she was initially given. So honestly, what I would probably do is take 90% of that money, put it somewhere where it would have the appreciation that it gets in like a Mackenzie Scott type scenario, and then do stuff like fund free childcare in my county and just pay people's acute medical bills in my county and see how that works for a while. Because when you have that much money, it just becomes so easy for money like that to replicate itself. It's sick in a lot of ways. So yeah, it would be something along those lines, but the $1 trillion fantasy isn't something I've indulged much because it ain't going to happen. So I'm going to be lucky to have a few million and figure out what to do with that, which mostly involves just hanging out with my wife. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of pie in the sky fantasies about that. Let's see. What do we got? Oh, shit. How far are we down? Hold. Remind me later. Hold on. Let me pull up the super chats here. Hold. $1 trillion question. Can I yeet my silky chickens or will I hurt them? Do not yeet your silky chickens. No. I don't think they can see quite well enough. And those little decorative breeds are sensitive. What's your opinion on the Boy Scouts supporting and teaching the Native American traditions to the Scouts? Tribes near us gave their blessing. Yeah, I mean, that's going to depend on a troop by troop, tribe by tribe kind of thing. If things are done properly, and Native teachings aren't fetishized and preferably are given by Native people themselves, it's fine. I think more people could be served by knowing what Native American original instructions are. What breed is the most sexy chicken? The most sexy. Which one has the biggest butt? Well, from a money perspective, the white leghorn, because they lay the most eggs. From a big ass perspective, that's probably a Delaware. For the most bougie, that's probably going to be either a Polish or a Silky. And for the most gentlest and easiest to manage and handle, that would probably be a Buff Orpington. So there you go. Sexy means different things to different people. Let's see. John Castellano says, full disclosure, I'm a right-leaning libertarian. That's fine. Even though we don't agree on things, a lot of times I enjoy your opinion and humor. I appreciate you, John. Coffee mug saying, what is it now? Yes, we are working on it. I promise. Warrior 4355 says, would you ever run for office? No. I mean, I'll never say never, but no. I think I would be more influential and powerful and consequential as a major regional employer than as one vote among however many. Like I don't think. See, the issue with me getting into office is like, okay, like I could cast votes in a way that would further my, I don't know, whatever my political prerogatives are. The issue is I don't think I'm someone who would be particularly persuasive to other politicians. There's people that can whip votes and persuade people to vote certain ways and like do the arm twisting and glad handing and shit that's necessary to gain political consensus among legislators and whatnot. And I don't have that. I'm more of a soldier type. I'm not a negotiator. I'm not a diplomat. So no. The things that make me popular in social media would make me, I think, a pariah in politics. So, let's see. These ladies going to get an OnlyFarms. Yes, they'll get an OnlyFarms where you pay me and I promise to keep my clothes on, and then you get to keep your eyeballs vision. Let's see. Professional artist here would love to help out. Sent you a Facebook DM. Oh, I keep forgetting I'm on Facebook. Shit. I appreciate you. We would love to use you instead of AI. What do we have here? Hey there, I've been meaning to ask you this for a bit. What piece of farm equipment impresses you the most in terms of its ingenuity and effectiveness? Hay baler. Hay baler's a freaking miracle. Because the old way of stacking hay using skeps and scythes and all that shit is, I mean, oh my God. So yeah, whoever was able to figure out how to create a round baler and probably especially a square baler is probably a no shit Rain Man type genius, and deserved a medal if they didn't get one. Let's see what else we got here. I recently inherited my grandfather's small farm and I'm fine with the chickens so far, but how do I keep them from escaping constantly? Leghorns. I knew it. You ain't gonna keep no leghorn from escaping without 4 walls and a ceiling, bro. That's why they're the ultimate indoor confinement house bird. If anybody doesn't know, white leghorns are, I think they're still the most productive egg breed on the planet. Easily lay over 300 eggs a year their first year. They're lightweight, agile, aggressive, and crazy as hell. They can jump 10 feet straight up in the air. They can damn near fly. They just have terrible attitudes and hate everyone. So yeah, you basically need an aviary, or to just let God, and let them have a free range run, and just some of them are just going to get got. That's pretty much all you can do. I'm so sorry. Leghorns are a son of a bitch. Let me read a little bit more out of this article. So yeah, we were talking about this article that's about Joel Salatin. And I read like the first little bit of it. I haven't read all of it. So I'm going to be reading most of this at the same time I'm showing it to you. So the author says, even I, age 16 in Poland, heard about Salatin's books when they started to circulate. But because my family used to own a few hands-on businesses that weren't connected to agriculture, I had enough comprehension to instantly understand the attractiveness of this, and zero factual background knowledge to argue with any points the radio stations touted about how the man was so amazing. Oh my God. This is what I didn't learn about Salatin until 20 years later. I was curious, so I went looking and found an essay by Res Traditio here on Substack that tried to sell me that Newman was speaking out of his ass. This essay is a direct response to the Res Traditio essay. No, sweetie, you and Salatin are talking out of your asses. If you ate a bowl of alphabet soup, you would shit out better advice. I need to hire this person. You would shit out better advice in the content of this Substack than the content of Salatin's books. Who is Chris Newman and what he actually said? In 2019, Chris Newman published an essay on Medium titled Small Family Farms Aren't the Answer. The romance of neoliberal peasant farming blinds us to our collective power. It circulated widely. The argument was structural and non-personal. Small farmers trying to operate the model popularized by Joel Salatin, direct-to-consumer, diversified, pasture-based, farmers market-dependent, are collectively destroying themselves financially while the system they're trying to challenge remains entirely intact. He wasn't theorizing, he was reporting. Newman had spent 5 years trying the Salatin model himself. quote, we spent about 2013, 14, 15, 17. We spent about 5 years trying to do it the traditional small farm, farm to table kind of way, he said in a podcast interview, and just realized the math doesn't pencil out if you're not born with an inheritance, a bunch of land, with a market, if you're not using free labor, etc. This is not an ideological position. This is a man who tried the advice, watched it fail, understanding why, and wrote about it. Newman's farmers market economics are precise. He calculated that at one large market, 100 vendors collectively spent over $585,000 just to participate, money that could instead fund a permanent brick and mortar market open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, year round, rather than a seasonal outdoor pop-up open a few hours twice a week. The alternative he proposed was vertically integrated farming cooperatives with a specific focus on providing ownership opportunities to people traditionally denied them in agriculture, which is people of color, LGBT people, and women. Res Tradicio's response to this argument is to wait 2 years for Newman's operations to collapse, collect testimony from former employees, and declare the argument refuted. We will address the collapse, but first the argument. Newman's structural critique has not been answered. It has been ignored. Pointing at a failed operation does not disprove the economics. Every farming model has failed operations. The question is whether the failure of one undercapitalized attempt at a new model, that is very true. That first co-op was basically created on accident as a result of COVID. I hired one person, and then they had one person who wanted to join them, and they were apparently like fleeing a really bad farm situation where they were being like kicked around and fucked with or whatever. So we brought them in, and then they enjoyed it. So like somebody else came in that was in another farm situation they didn't like, and I just kind of let this snowball because it was COVID, and I kind of let myself believe that if I didn't let these people in, they were just going to be twisting in the wind or whatever. So, guilt got the best of me, and next thing you know, we've got way too many people, way too little money, and there was never a plan. So anyway, the question of whether this failure of one undercapitalized attempt at a new model proves the old model works, it does not. What proves the old model works is the old model working, and there is a substantial body of evidence that it does not. Most of it's silent because the people who follow Joel Salatin's advice and go broke do not get essays in Mother Jones. They just fail quietly. So anyway, let me go through that a little bit. I mean, yeah, that is kind of a lot of it, right? There's like an MLM aspect, and I don't just accuse Joel of this. Like, this is a big thing in small farming, is that small farmers, like the popular small farmers you hear about, like the Justin Rhodeses and the Gabe Browns and the Joel Salatins and people like that, like they're, as much as they're selling food, if not more, they're selling the idea of small farming to people who are alienated by their work. And specifically, they're alienated in an economy where they're becoming more and more productive, more and more educated. It's becoming more and more expensive to become economically productive, but also you're being paid almost nothing. You can't afford shit. A lot of people can't afford houses. They can't afford to save. They can't afford, like, it's just like, you went from 40 years ago, 50 years ago, you work to pay your bills, put something aside, take vacations, and eventually retire, to now you're working your ass off just to not starve. And it's alienating people. This is the kind of thing that gives communism runway. It's the kind of thing that Karl Marx talks about the alienation of the workforce. It's what Bookchin talks about. It's what all the like truly lefty type people talk about. Their diagnoses are very, very correct. I don't necessarily agree with their solutions, but they're not fucking around when they say people get alienated by their work in the system. So, Joel and these guys are very good at tapping into that kind of malaise and selling absolution through this, like, let's go back to when things made more sense, even though people don't really know what that past looks like. And it's something that you can make work if you're someone like Joel, who has the resources and the inheritance to kind of build your little firewalled village of sort of, kind of, but not really stepping back into the past. Anyhow, let's see. Next few super chats. I'm from Kansas. Wish I could support y'all more. It isn't much, but I love your content. I've learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. The Zion Potato Z. Living in Columbia, South Carolina asks, is the plant plans going to be like the House of Rayford here in South Carolina? I don't know what that is. Also, we are finally free of Graham. hate that it went that way, but we couldn't get away from him. We tried for a long time. Yeah, sometimes physics and karma just kind of takes over. May you enjoy your freedom. Until he's replaced by someone just as bad. Let's see. Hi from Canada. Hello, Canada. Lady Ada says, hope you're staying cool. I was told by someone who used to live around your area how bad the humidity gets in the summer. You have no idea. It is nasty over here. And I appreciate your condolences. What is the meaning of chicken life? To get in my belly. I know you can't ship your food abroad because of laws and economics, to be honest. But can you ship your merch abroad? I'd like to buy some in the UK. So we don't hold our own inventory. We design it. And we're basically like a drop shipper for our own merch. So it's never here. So we can only ship where Printful ships, and they don't ship overseas. So unfortunately, it's just in the US for now. I'm so sorry. Lynette 2701, hi from New York. We needs merch. What is it now? There actually is. I think Brian did put up a What Is It Now t-shirt on the website. If you go to www.blackbirdcoop.com and what the hell? Oh wait, never mind. Yeah, if you go to blackbirdcoop.com and go to the merch section, that'll do it. Hold on one second. Pull this thing up. There it is. Okay, hold on. Let me go back to the supers. I'm so sorry. Honestly, I didn't think this many people would be on this late. I was only supposed to be an hour, but oops. Let's see. Scrolling down. What happened to the small flock profitability experiment? Did you send them to a farm upstate? No. Let's see. Around November, I took most of them back to the main flock at the farm because it was going to snow and the fences were going to get all screwy or whatever. And while I was in the middle of moving them, we had our, let's see, I think around, was it December? We had that really bad ice storm. I think I had 15 chickens out of like the 80 or something that were there. There were like 15 left in the woods because of the ice storm. The fence shorted out. I think a dog, which is rare, but a dog got in and killed all 15. So yeah, dog. That experiment was never going to be profitable. Like homesteading's not profitable. Like whenever the only way for it to be profitable is for there to be like fuzzy accounting and not count all your overhead, or like the opportunity cost of your overhead. It just it doesn't. It doesn't pencil out. Especially if you're buying anything. If you buy a single thing for your homestead for chickens, no. Let's see. Sigan Sagavidi. I can't even pronounce that whole name. As I have someone I know, she has an avocado farm, but they don't want to pay the upfront water cost. They have chickens too. Should they switch and mix things up and add diversity to their farm, or stick with what's already there? Generally speaking, so here's the thing, right? Diversifying horizontally, which is to say, like, so when I refer to vertical diversification, let's say you're like a chicken specialist. Diversifying vertically means instead of just selling whole chickens, you also sell parts. You also sell chicken soup. You also sell pet treats. You sell broths. You sell stuff within that product silo. Diversifying horizontally means you're basically adding new species. So horizontal means you start with chickens, but then you move over into cattle, you move over into pork, you move over into veg, you do whatever. I am generally not a fan of horizontal diversification. there are a lot of well-published theories as to why maybe you should. Those are usually from a business standpoint that I don't agree with, and from an ecological standpoint, which is dubious. From a business standpoint, insurance is a better hedge against loss than trying to raise a whole bunch of different things on the same piece of land. It's less expensive. It's less of a pain in the ass. Because there's this idea, if you're I don't know, if all your chickens die, then at least you'll have pigs to sell, and all your pigs die, you'll at least have like beef to sell. That's not how that works. If you have 3 lines of business and something happens where you lose a third of your potential revenue, you are screwed. Pigs aren't going to save you. Cows aren't going to save you. Like, the other thing isn't going to save you. But insurance might. So just get better insurance. It's cheaper. From an ecological standpoint, there's something to be said of sometimes layering livestock, layering catch crops with edible crops, and there's ways to mix species diversity and crops and species and things like that make sense from a biodiversity standpoint. But given that pretty much all market-driven agriculture right now is underwritten by fossil fuels, you're almost like LARPing at playing God. Like, honestly, it's easier to just raise chickens on a place and manage grass height and nutrient cycling and things like that with timing mowing with rain and yeah, stuff like that, than to try to like have cattle running ahead of chickens that are running ahead of something else. Like, it sounds nice, but unless you're on a farm that is like a genuine closed loop, which is not going to be market oriented, which is going to be more of a homestead or self-feeding or community feeding kind of thing, which is a valid thing, then there's really no point. If you're market oriented and you're farming for a living, like if you're farming for cash basically, and you're not operating something that's just designed to feed you and everybody else, then it's kind of a waste of time, waste of effort, waste of money, I would say. So no, I would say, like, figure out your water situation with avocados, and if it's not a situation that can be figured out, then get the hell out of avocados. Because sometimes there's lines of business you don't want to be in. Like, it's why we're not in pigs anymore. Let's see what else we got next. C.L. Johnson just got out of a facility after a self-unaliving attempt. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I have to say, you continuously be the reason I find a reason to hang in there, not pandering. Just want to thank you for what you bring. Gee, I'm glad you're still here. Wow. I'm kind of speechless. Thank you for those words. Jotterson 1156 asks, how do you see your future business competing with the lab meat cartel? Very easily. Lab grown meat. The reason I'm not afraid of lab grown meat, and I don't think anybody needs to be afraid of lab grown meat, is because it's so goddamn expensive to produce and nearly impossible to scale because the energy requirements are so damn high. This is the same reason, like, I think people who grow food in the ground shouldn't be afraid of vertical farming. I mean, this idea that vertical farms, indoor farms, which use 90% less water and, like 5% of the land or whatever, are going to make the Central Valley unnecessary. The problem is that you have the sun for free, and there's no way to compete with that. Like, energy is everything. Like, land is scarce, water is scarce, but energy, energy is only free and abundant from the sun. All of the energy you have to manufacture and pay for. And with cultivated meat, the energy requirement is just so goddamn high. It can't compete with it can't compete even with fossil fuel driven agriculture. It's impossible because there's just too much free energy coming from the sun. So I'm not worried about it. People are way more freaked out about it than they need to be. And it's one of those things where I can kind of safely assure people this is a thing you don't really have to worry about. There's plenty of real stuff to worry about. Somebody asked, you win the Mega Millions for $637 million. What do you do? So I answered this question earlier. It's the same as a $1 trillion question. I consult an attorney and an accountant to see how much of that money I keep, and then I do a Mackenzie Scott kind of thing, where 90% of it you set aside and you put it in, I don't know, whatever interest bearing or dividend bearing thing you can, appreciating the stock market, whatever the hell, and you give it away, but you're not going to be able to give it away faster than it grows, and so you just pay for your community's needs that are being underfunded by us sending all our goddamn tax dollars to bomb kids in Iran or whatever, and pay for things that we actually need. Let's see. USDA B33F91 asked, do you ever speak with FFA or other youth ag groups? Not really. There's just no time. Like this is the most I get to do is stuff at like 10:30 at night when everybody's asleep. Now, running our business is too time consuming. There's too much going on. Let me get back to this thing. So this thing said, again, back to the article about me and Joel Salatin, what went wrong with my business, what's wrong with Joel Salatin, et cetera, et cetera. Joel Salatin is a third-generation farmer on 550 acres in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. He's the author of 17 books. He has spoken at conferences around the world. He was featured prominently in Michael Pollan's The Omnivore's Dilemma and became one of the most recognizable faces of the alternative agriculture movement. His farm is called Polyface. He inherited it from his parents, who inherited the land from his family. He has never purchased farmland. If I remember correctly, Joel's dad bought their farm. He didn't inherit it from his dad's parents. I think his dad bought the land after he got a settlement from the government after he got kicked out of Venezuela, is the way I remember Joel himself describing that. Res Traditio uses Newman's start on his wife's parents' land as evidence of hypocrisy. Newman called for structural change while benefiting from a structural advantage. Newman acknowledged this himself publicly and explicitly, calling it hitting the lottery and building his entire argument around the fact that most people attempting to farm don't win that lottery. Using this as a weapon against him requires ignoring that he disclosed it and centered it in his own critique. Salatin also started on family land. He has never been asked to account for it in the same way. His 17 books and decades of public advice to aspiring farmers do not mention in their titles that the model he's selling requires inherited land to function. The asymmetry is not incidental. I don't think Joel completely ignores it. Joel just kind of sidesteps it. Like I remember reading his book back before I started farming, and over and over again he states like, don't. And to an extent, I agree with this, which is, he says, don't worry about what I got. Which would be a fine thing to say if you weren't teaching people to imitate you. So I don't really think you can have your cake and eat it too, but there you go. Here's what Res Traditio also did not tell you about Polyface Farm. The interns. In 2019, the Polyface intern cohort built a website to document their own experience. One intern contracted Campylobacter and made multiple trips to the ER. On a car ride after a second ER visit, Daniel Salatin, Joel's son and farm manager, asked her whether she told anyone in the ER where she was living or where she had contracted the illness, saying it could drastically affect Polyface's reputation. She had not. She relapsed a month later after completing antibiotics and left the farm physically and emotionally exhausted. After she left, a fellow intern texted to inform her that Salatins had admitted knowing all summer that the water at the hunt camp where they were living was contaminated. The cisterns were basins catching rain runoff from rooftops with no proper filtration. A real water filter was eventually installed. The filter turned black before the day was done. Ew. Every member of the 2019 intern cohort declined to apply for apprenticeships. They calculated their combined sum of labor was worth upward of $200,000. Each received $500. That's all right. The birds in Jonathan Safran Foer's Eating Animals, poultry farmer Frank Reese is unambiguous. Quote, Joel Salatin is doing industrial birds. Call him up and ask him. So he puts them on pasture. It makes no difference. Salatin's birds are the same genetically compromised Cornish cross broilers used by industrial producers. Pasture access does not change the breed. The animal welfare claim that has made Polyface famous rests in part on a distinction that one of America's most respected poultry farmers says does not exist. I can't say I agree with that. Again, as much as it would be fun to punch Joel Salatin in the cock, I raise Cornish birds. And the reason we raise Cornish birds and the reason that Cornish birds exist is because that's what people wanted. Like, that's what the market wanted. People wanted birds with full breasts. They wanted them with thick thighs. They wanted them young, tender, without black feather marks all over them. You can raise red rangers now. They have red rangers. You could raise dual purpose breeds or whatever. You present that carcass to people, they wonder, like, is this thing sick? They don't want a razor-breasted bird. They don't want something that's tough and has to be stewed or braised or or whatever. Calling them genetically compromised. Compromised for what? They're designed to get big and quick. They're not designed to live forever. They're not bred to live forever. They're like Angus cattle now. Like, they're bred for characteristics that, like, they're bred for eating characteristics. They're not bred to be pets. They're not bred to, it's why leghorns are crazy. Like, it's a side effect of what makes them lay eggs effectively. I don't necessarily buy that, but it's fine. Let's see. The animal abuse charges. Salatin disclosed this himself in a public talk as an anecdote about bureaucratic overreach. Quote, we spent 3 days with a state vet fighting animal abuse charges because a lady drove by one of our farms and saw the cows bunched up at 4 p.m. ready to move. He frames it as harassment. The charges existed. He fought them for 3 days. He mentioned it the way you'd mention a parking ticket. Again, as fun as it would be to dunk on Joel, people do this shit. Like, people, if you're in a rotational grazing scheme, and I'm going to guess that 4 p.m. is probably about right, because most grazers, they tend to move cattle to new pasture in the afternoon because the bricks content in grass is usually higher, getting toward the evening. And yeah, when they know they're about to move, they're gonna they're gonna bunch up. They know the door's about to open, so, like, what the fuck? They were bunched up outside on a pasture getting ready to move from one section of grass to another. Like, there's no abuse there. People are just stupid. And, they expect to see a pasture where there's, like, a cow over here and a cow over there and a cow over there and a cow over there. Like, they don't know what mob grazing is. They don't know what rotational grazing is. They don't know. Cows don't like to be, like, strung out by themselves all the time. They are herd animals. They're prey animals. They know it. They bunch up by default. Chickens do the same damn thing. Like, you give them all the room you want. They're usually going to be all right next to each other, preferably close to where they're being fed. That's not animal abuse. That's animals doing what the fuck animals do. And most prey animals tend to bunch up. So again, it's like, it's not animal abuse. I don't know. I've been to Joel's farms, and I don't like a lot of things he says, and if anything, he's abusing young people, but he's not abusing animals over there. The next one, climate denial. In 2017, DeSmog reported, is that a person? DeSmog reported that Salatin does not accept the scientific consensus on humans cause climate change. That's not surprising. He appeared at the Red Pill Expo, a conference organized around conspiracy theories alongside climate deniers and anti-vaccination advocates, and criticized for his views. He responded by not engaging with the science, but attacking scientists. They've been grossly wrong as many times as perfectly right. Yeah, that's what Salatin does when he's challenged on things. He turns ad hominem. He makes it about personalities. He makes it about the culture war, not about the issues, not about the science, not about any of that stuff. And he'll say that science has been wrong, even though science, again, scientific consensus is different than scientific certainty. Scientists have been wrong about exactly how much is the planet going to heat up and how fast, but what they're not wrong about is that the planet, for example, is absolutely heating the fuck up, and it is heating up on a trend that has been predicted, and is heating up for the reasons that have been stated. And you can argue that they were wrong by like 1/10 of a degree Celsius or whatever, but on the other hand, fuck you, don't you see what's happening? So yeah, that's about in line with how Joel operates. Let me answer a couple more questions here real quick. Love your shorts. Wish I could buy from PA soon, probably next year. Joel Wassinger says, I hate that motherfucker is taking my name in vain. KRE Cursing says, what's a favorite go-to chicken recipe y'all like to make? Red curry chicken. So you take chicken thighs, you debone them, you skin them, you chop them up into bite-sized bits, you velvet them, you'll toss them in cornstarch and oyster sauce, fry them twice. Fry them once at 350 degrees until they're cooked. I'll flash fry them again at 450 degrees to expel all the moisture out, make them crunchy, take them out. My curry base is just going to be like a pre-packed like grocery store red curry paste. I'll throw ginger, shallot. Is it just ginger and shallot? Yeah, I'll put ginger and shallot in a little bit of oil, let that fry on like medium-low heat for like 2 minutes until it starts getting fragrant. What then? Then you put in the red curry paste, probably about 1/3 of a can. It usually comes in about the same size can. I forget how many ounces, but it's usually about yay tall and like yay wide. So about 1/3 of that. Throw that in there, fry that up for like a minute and a half. I'll put in a can of coconut water, stir that up, keep it moving. You don't want it to settle. Let that start to cook through. I'll throw in broccoli, red pepper, stir that in, cook that through, throw the chicken back in, make sure everything's nice and hot and warm. Toss in a little bit of fish sauce and basil on top when it's completely done. Pour that all over rice or rice noodles, and delicious. Nice and quick, super easy. Let's see. Next. Cheers from Oregon. Your videos are constantly shared with my friend groups. You're hilarious and educational. Cody or CM Punk at SummerSlam. It's got to be CM Punk. I hate myself. Truth Exposed 8975 says dad was a butcher for 47 years, supplied beef by Tyson, died of SCJDMM12 from exposure to LBSE mad cow. Damn. Yeah, I'm glad that's not really an issue anymore, but peace to your pops, man. Goddamn. Rebecca Page says you're 30 minutes into the Lord of the Ring trilogy. Your wife yells that she's in the mood, and you learn the pigs are out. What do? I weep softly before going to take care of the pigs, because the pigs will get in traffic, cause an accident. You have an insurance claim. It's going to ruin your life. And my wife is always in the mood, so I can always come back for that. And Lord of the Ring, you get pause, but you can't hit pause on the pigs. So that is. Yeah. Something says, I want to have a personal chat with you. How can we make that happen? I'm willing to pay. If I had the time, I would. But the time's just not there. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Every basically second that I'm not working, I'm trying to devote to my family so I don't become a stranger to my kids, because nobody wants to be that dad that's, I work to provide you with a blah, blah, blah. But then, your kids don't know who the fuck you are. So, yeah, I'm so sorry. The money would be tempting, but I don't want money on my tombstone. I want beloved father and husband on my tombstone. Next, Sidron Veliki says, for Chris, Seed Milifa. I don't know what language this is. It must be Celtic or Gaelic or something. 100,000 welcomes in Irish. And how have you been in Selagi? Yeah, I don't speak Cherokee languages that well. I don't know Cherokee languages that well. Hello to you. And I have been fantastic. Thank you. Let's see. DS4008 says, it is sad and dangerous. Most people don't know where their food comes from. Thanks for your myth busting and brilliant content. I wish I lived closer so I could buy your steaks. Thank you so much. A small Wakla says, do you ship to Canada? At the moment, we do not. I'm so sorry. Lux Jewelers LLC donates $20 to the Chicken Factory tomorrow and asks, absolutely love your videos. Look forward to trying your tasty birds. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Can't afford any support but this. Love your face. Thank you so much for loving my face. And dude, every $1, $2 is another dollar or $2 I don't have to raise from investors. So thank you, thank you, thank you. No amount is too small. I appreciate y'all. Denise Lynn 0928 IFY bought your book to support you, but I have no desire to start a farm or business. No comment, just supporting your cause. Have a great night. Thank you, Denise. Appreciate you. Exodus Officer says, I studied. Shit, it just scrolled me all the way to the bottom. Hold on a second. Ah, bloody hell. Wait, found it. There it is. Okay. Exodus Officer says, I studied soil science at UMD. I went to UMD. Look. Yeah. We might have went to the same place. Look at it. It actually lost my degree for a while and it got a little sun faded. But anyway, yeah, I got computer, mathematical, physical. There was a time, y'all. There was a time when I was smart. Anyway, studied soil science at UMD and now teach it and would love to hear about the role that soil testing or soil health play in your operations. Go Terps. Been years since I rubbed Testudo's nose. Oh my God, I don't think I rubbed Testudo's nose. So anybody know Testudo is a giant brass turtle, I guess, or is it bronze? I don't know what the hell it is. Anyway, yeah, they got them in front of McKeldin Library. They got one in front of Hornbeck. They got there's like turtles all over the damn. There's like 5 of them up on these big pedestals. Anybody rubs their nose, it's got a shiny brass bronze nose, and the rest of it's green as shit. Anyway, we don't do a lot of soil testing just because we don't do crops, so it's not as important for us. Like we're pasture farmers, so. Like a lot of our soil health, as far as it's necessary for us, is you can just tell by doing forage counts and looking at the plant conditions and what your weed pressure is and stuff like that. So we don't really do. I don't think we've ever really done soil tests at our place. You can just, where we're at, you can just kind of look at it, and you can tell how things are looking like year over year over year. That's not a great scientific progress, but. Because we're not doing any kind of precision crop-based agriculture, we've never really had to. But if we were into crops, or if we were into like, especially if we were trying to like restore native perennial habitat, things like that, it would be a lot more important, and we'd definitely be doing it for our pastures where it's poultry, and in the future probably cattle, not so much. But someday, possibly. Which state, Real Fresh Inc. asks, which state, in your opinion, is the best climate or terrain for raising chickens? That's going to be a place that is specifically not too hot. I feel like chickens are better at tolerating cold than they are hot, but not too cold. Honestly, if I had to pick a state, actually, I don't know. I would want a high rainfall state with a lot of forage year round. So that's going to take us below like the New York and maybe even most of the Pennsylvania line. I mean, honestly, the South, chickens are descended from jungle fowl. They do well in. So here's a funny thing about climate change. Climate change has us evaluating. We've already done this with our hens. Our hens are in the woods now. We used to raise them on pasture and pasture schooners, like Joel Salatin style. We don't anymore because they got too damn hot, and they would, when it gets really hot, they don't really range. They don't really range on the pasture. They just duck into the hen mobile and they just try to avoid the sun, and they just sit there panting like right on top of each other, and in a lot of cases just dying of heat because they're like right on top of each other. But if they're in hot and humid weather in the shade because they're in the trees, which is kind of what they're evolved for, they thrive. We haven't even had the usual like summer egg drop that we used to have because they're just not stressed the way they were when they were out on pasture. So, honestly, when it comes to that, the South, like Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, the Deep South, Louisiana, Florida, like it's go to Florida, Puerto Rico. Like chickens are like wild, like literally wild. They're feral down there. They they thrive in those climates. So yeah, any like humid ass, not too hot, forested state, I think works well. Let's see what else we got. No Way Out Show 2. All hail Blackstrick Warburton, Kronk of the Poultry. Thank you. I appreciate you. The Dirt Tube says, how do I get to the class you wanted to teach about chicken farming? I don't think I'm a particularly good teacher for technicals. I'm not detail oriented enough. So yeah, I wouldn't do that to anybody. Thank you for your work and sharing the knowledge. Wish I could support more directly, but I don't live in the area. Much respect from American Samoa. Thank you. Appreciate the content, man. Picked up one of your baseball caps. Great quality. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for the content. Will never raise chickens, but my entire backyard and front porch holds produce I grow for my family every summer. I'm jealous. I didn't even get to plant my garden this year. And thanks for writing your book too. You are very welcome. Thank you so much, Sandy Snowflake. Hi, Chris. JJ the Forager here. Love the content and bought your book. Going to read and implement strategies into my mushroom business here in Florida. Ooh, mushrooms. That's a hard business. I wouldn't be able to. Like, people who grow mushrooms, dairy, yeah, specifically mushrooms and dairy. Thank God for those people, because Jesus, you talk about a hard friggin' business. Peter Mitchell, if you ever find yourself in the Black Hills of South Dakota, please come by my bakery called The Sour. Would love to treat you to a cup of coffee and a croissant and talk. Your perspective on business and life is interesting. I would love to visit South Dakota at some time. It's a beautiful place. Actually, let me get through a few more of those. Can I get a job, my man? I live in DC. I think we're all hired up in the moment, but motherfuckers quit every now and then. So at some point, we'll put something on the website where people can apply more openly. Our job is usually posted to Indeed. What we got here? My girl keeps about 3 dozen chickens on her farm. She's having major surgery tomorrow. Damn, and we'll be out of work for months. Damn. What's a useful gift that she can use on the farm? Her incubator is falling apart. I have never incubated eggs. So honestly, I don't know. The best gift she could probably use would be your very careful attention to what she was doing every day to keep them chickens alive and that incubator running. And for you to do those things that she was doing very, very carefully so that she can recover quickly and correctly. But yeah, I've never, not one time, incubated a single chicken egg. That is more work than I'm willing to do. New here, when should I check for pet treats? So here's the thing. We got a bunch that just arrived at the shop on Friday from our kitchen. A bunch of them I know were already spoken for orders that were back ordered. Whatever extra we have after those orders have been filled will be on the website on Monday. And there will probably be another restock on Friday. So I would check tomorrow afternoon and Friday afternoon. Somebody, Little Gray Mouse asked, does your chest tattoo have a specific meaning? So yeah, I have this tattoo, yeah, and it's like all the way down, and yeah. Let me show you something. Please hold. Let's see. Is this it? So it is derived from, so I get a large, damn it, hold on. I want it zoom in, you bastard. Hold. Okay, so there's a painting called, I think the 5 Indian Kings, or like the 4 Painted Kings, or some shit like that. And one of them in particular is a painting of a Mohawk chieftain. And if you're able to see that, you may not be able to get closer. You see that? Do you see? Do you see? Well, you will notice
that tattoo is very similar to the tattoo that I have. I myself am not Mohawk. I'm not Piscataway. However, I am Piscataway, not Mohawk. Um, However, I have a matrilineal connection to the Five Nations by way of my Choptico grandmother's father, um, who was part of the Five Nations. But because our nations are determined usually through the mother's line, and my Indian line comes through the Choptico people, which is my grandmother's people, because of her mother was Choptico. So this is kind of like a nod to that part of my native heritage, even though I'm not enrolled Five Nations, and people kind of crazy anyway. But let's see. Favorite expression, mantra, regardless of language, that serves as a reminder to keep going. The poem Desiderata by Max Ehrmann is probably one of my favorite that I know from memory and that I tend to recite to myself every day. I also, this isn't like a mantra or anything, but I usually read a few pages out of the Tao Te Ching every day. I saw in one of your videos that bug eating has an influence on the egg quality. Is it practical to directly feed bugs to your flocks? Not really. Animal protein like that is not going to be as cost effective as plant protein from soybeans, from roasted soybeans in particular. So no, for our purposes, it is not practical. Black 15-year-olds consider shipping to Williamsburg. We do ship to Williamsburg. We don't deliver, which means you can't get our eggs in Williamsburg, but all of our meat does ship to Williamsburg, Virginia. Hold on one second. Let me go back to this one. Anyhow, at Kroger, they have a bacon wrapped filet mignon and about a 1.5 inches thick for $6. This can't be real filet, right? They're really tasty, though. No, it's probably real filet. It's probably filet that was nearing its expiration date. And if it's 1.5 inches thick, which is about like yay big, filet going for about 30. Yeah, they're making money. Not a lot, but they're, especially if it's like select. Yeah, it's real. Probably real. Otherwise, I don't know. It might be like a fucking top sirloin or something that they're passing off and hoping the bacon covers it up. But I doubt that a major grocer is trying to pull that kind of shenanigans, because you can get the pantsuit off of you for mislabeling and things like that. First off, I want to buy you a cheeseburger. Second off, give me a Dan joke. Do you mean a dad joke? Or something positive? I don't know if I know any damn dad jokes. Yeah, I don't know any dad jokes. Damn. I'm coming up short. I'm so sorry. Joseph Fleming asks, deliveries to Philadelphia soon, probably in 2020. Maybe in 2027, definitely in 2028. Let's see, what else we got? Wait, hold. Hello from Calvert County. Looking forward to enjoying your product soon. Thank you. Alex Giles, 45, says, been learning from your chicken tractor design. Much appreciated. What's your favorite cigar? My favorite cigar is the Padron 1964 series Torpedo, which has become very, very difficult to find. It's very annoying. My go-to cigar is a Padron 3000. I don't smoke them that often. I smoke one like every other week, if that. Sometimes I go a month without smoking one. I don't smoke that often. But yeah, those are my go-tos. Padron is like you can never go wrong with Padron. Let's see what else we got here. Goldcast 9485 asks, what do you have against the manosphere? That is a loaded question. What do I have against the manosphere? Many things. One being that it fundamentally poses masculinity in some kind of like adversarial opposition to femininity and feminism. It reduces women to targets instead of partners. It treats them like chips and tokens to be collected. I think it teaches men, particularly young men, to be resentful towards women. I think it promotes a kind of, I think toxic masculinity is an overused term. I would say a simplified, flattened version of masculinity that is extremely vain and frankly a little gay, if we're being honest. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, but when your whole thing is about how much you can grab chicks or whatever, and then all you're doing is just like flexing your muscles in front of other dudes, it's like, what are you doing, bro? You know. I don't know, dude. Like when I hear people like Myron Gaines and like all the dudes in that Manosphere documentary that was on Netflix, and like they're so damn mad. A lot of them can't hold down relationships. Like they're not partners. Like they're just trying to dominate people, but there's like a limp dickedness about it that's just super insecure and lame and almost a little predatory. Like it's why a lot of these guys are going after extremely young women. You know, see, I don't know. It presents a version of masculinity that is just extremely selfish and self-serving and doesn't protect anybody, doesn't help anybody. It's an outlet for insecurities. It blames others for like whatever you feel like your shortcomings are. It makes masculinity extremely superficial. It encourages you to bury emotions instead of exploring your soul. It's tied up in vanity around money and material accumulation, none of which is going to make you happy if you're dead inside. And it doesn't teach you to cultivate your soul. It just teaches you to, I don't know, put off this veneer of what some people think manliness is. So no, I think, the manosphere is ultimately bad for young men. I think it makes them unhappier. And unhappy, poorly socialized young men are dangerous to themselves and society. I think young men have been failed by their elders. I don't, society is still very much geared to favor men overwhelmingly. I say that as someone who came out of the engineering profession, which is an overwhelmingly male-dominated profession. Things are harder for young men than they've ever been, but they're not as hard for us as they've been for other people. And society being the way it is mostly the result of social, political, and economic systems that have been set up by fucking baby boomers, basically, and like that. Like that's the issue. So I don't know. And I also feel that, with the whole manosphere thing, it's almost like the small farming thing. It's it's a bunch of people that have found out that there's this whole group of alienated feeling people that they can monetize, right? Like the small farming movement does that with people who are alienated by their work and offers like this superficial, like, I don't know, back home on the prairie kind of thing that you can live this Thomas Jefferson wet dream and you can feel better about everything, but they don't tell you what the realities of that are. And I think the manosphere is the same thing. Instead of a bunch of people alienated by their work, you got a bunch of young men alienated by an economic system that's no longer able to serve the average person. And people have found a way to monetize that by making them angry and directing that anger mostly at women. And I think it's messed up that people have done that to young people in this country in particular, just to make a buck. Let's see. The jocular jurist asks, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? a woodchuck would chuck as much as he could if a woodchuck would. Andrew PG1CT asks, how are the knives coming along? Smoked one of your delicious chickens for dinner last night. Thanks again. We've shipped out through memberships in mid-April. So yeah, we were super fucking backlogged. I'm actually going on vacation starting tomorrow, and I'm mostly going to spend a lot of my vacation signing books and mailing knives. So it's a girl, it's going to be terrible. But yes, the knives are all here. They are going out. But honestly, it is admittedly slow going because we are understaffed for that part. But it is getting done, and it will get done because, God damn it, I will not fail. Let's see what else we got. May God continue to bless you, your family, and your employees and business. Thank you so much. Heath R. Hansen asks, any hope of an audiobook? I drive a lot for work. Yeah, I started working on one. There's chapters of it on my Patreon. I haven't done one, and I haven't done a chapter in a very long time, just because I've been so busy with the business. But it is slowly but surely in the works. Amanda donates $20 to the Chicken Factory of Tomorrow. You're hilarious, and I'm learning a lot from you. Just ordered your dog treats recently. Looking forward to my dogs trying them. Thank you so much. Let me get back to this essay real quick. Again, about a mix of Joel Salatin and my first failed farm co-op. Salatin hosted people making the opposite of these arguments at his farm during. Well, actually, let me back up a little bit. Hold. Yeah, there was the climate denial part. Okay, climate denial. In 2017, DeSmog reported that Salatin does not accept the scientific consensus on human-caused climate change. He appeared at the Red Pill Expo, a conference organized around conspiracy theories alongside climate deniers and anti-vax advocates. When criticized for his views, he responded by not engaging with science but attacking scientists, saying they've been grossly wrong as many times as perfectly right. This is worth pausing on because Salatin is pointing at something real. Scientific institutions have been wrong, sometimes catastrophically. DSM-3 classified homosexuality as a mental illness until 1973. The history of medicine contains enough institutionally endorsed harm to make anyone cautious about consensus. Salatin is not inventing this critique, but there is a difference between institutions can be wrong, here's my specific counter evidence, and institutions can be wrong, therefore I don't have to engage with this one. Salatin does the second. He uses a legitimate epistemological point as an exit from a specific argument he doesn't want to have. That's a cold-ass line. The anti-vax positioning platform that Paula faced during the pandemic deserves the same scrutiny. The big pharma conspiracy version of vaccine skepticism requires explaining why, if pharmaceutical companies are running a global mandate racket, there are dozens of effective vaccines that are not only routinely administered to everyone, Typhoid vaccine, it exists and works. Travelers get it. Everyone else doesn't because mass vaccination isn't the right public health tool for a disease that's rare in developed countries. Same with rabies, cholera, yellow fever, Japanese encephalitis. Effective vaccines sitting on the shelf given only to specific risk groups because the public health calculus doesn't support universal administration. If the conspiracy were real, that money would be on the table, but it isn't. That's because that's not how public health decisions about vaccination schedules work. Salatin hosted people making the opposite of these arguments at his farm during a pandemic in which COVID vaccines prevented an estimated 14.4 million deaths in the first year alone. He publicly declared he wanted to contract the virus. I remember that shit. A pharmacist with 35 years of experience responded publicly that his lack of understanding was obvious. The response to Newman. When Newman's essay, I'm Newman, by the way. When Newman's essay circulated, Salatin titled his response, Whining and Entitlement. He told a black indigenous farmer on leased land to bootstrap and wrote in his own words, quote, when I think of William Cody mounting a U.S. Postal Service Pony Express horse at the age of 13 and riding through paths lined with hostile Native Americans, I wonder where he is today, end quote. Bitch, did you check why they were hostile? The Native Americans were hostile because William Cody was riding through their land on behalf of colonial enterprise during the violent dispossession of indigenous people. Salatin uses the phrase as if it describes a natural condition rather than a response to an invasion. Thank you. He wrote this to a member of the Chapticocanawa band of Piscataway Indians. Yes, he did. Yeah, Salatin thinks that Indians only exist in fairy tales or in white people pretending to be Cherokee. In a private email to the Mother Earth News publisher, he told BIPOC farmers who felt America offered them no opportunity to, quote, give up all modern conveniences and return to their tribal locations and domiciles. Newman published the email, which I did because fuck him. Salatin later issued a partial apology acknowledging some references, quote, can be offensive in the current cultural context. Mother Earth News ended the relationship. Res Traditio frames this as Newman rallying supporters to cancel Salatin. What Salatin wrote is a matter of record. Mother Earth News made their own decision based on it. This is the man whose model Res Traditio declares vindicated. It's fantastic. Let's see. The most elegant accusation in the piece. Res Traditio attacks Newman for, quote, unchecked illegal pork processing in an unregistered facility. This is one of the more damning items in the former employer testimony. It is real. It happened. The food safety failures at Silvanaqua, which is the name of my old farm, during its collapse were serious. So that part was interesting because part of the fallout from that whole thing was Sarah Tabor calling the meat police and telling them I was doing illegal shit. So they showed up. Like state officials and federal officials, like both, like straight up came to my shop. And I think they were expecting me to be like weird and like have something to hide or whatever. But when they showed up, I was throwing open freezers, telling them exactly how we did shit. Like, here's the pork, here's the chicken, here's how everything is stored, here's how everything is cut up, here's how everything is packed. The only thing they asked me to do was to put a lock on our freezer that was outdoors. That was like the only thing on the checklist. So I don't know, dude. Like they swore to God that everything I was doing there was illegal, but when the actual meat cops showed up, they were like, "Yeah, maybe put a lock on the outside freezer, or maybe not. We don't care. We have better things to do." And then they fucked right off, and I never heard from them again. So anyway, yeah, like the only food safety failure that happened while we were there was, I think the first chicken processing we did together, where we were trying a new conveyor belt system or whatever. We had loaded up something like 300 chickens or whatever. And since this thing was new, I remember I said something like, all right, we're going to do 50 chickens or 1 hour, whichever one comes first. And if this process looks slow or clunky, we're going to take these birds back to the field because they're going to be in these cages for too damn long. So the process turned out to be super slow and was poorly considered because it was an experiment. And so we said, all right, we're going to put the chickens back. And they were like, all right, they're going to put the chickens back because there were like 300 something chickens to put back. And there were fucking 10 of them. So this should have been easy. I got back to my office and was working on some stuff. And then I got a Slack message from one of them that said, we're not feeling putting these chickens back, so we're going to go ahead and slaughter them anyway. And, you know, we were a co-op. So like I couldn't just overrule them and be like, no, let's fucking do what we agreed to do, because it made sense at the time and it made sense now. So these motherfuckers spent all goddamn night, and I mean all night, slaughtering 300 goddamn chickens. And when they got done, they were smoking pot the whole time. They put a bunch of them in a pair of igloo coolers, which they closed and then stuck into a non-working walk-in fridge. So, like, days later, when somebody finally remembered that there were chickens over there, you could imagine what that looked and smelled like. So, like, shit like that happened. And it was one of those things where, like, the relationship was already so poisoned, they wouldn't accept any help or advice or direction from me. So it's like they just did whatever the fuck they wanted to do. And my fault was that I let them and I didn't cut the cord earlier. So like those were the food safety failures, not necessarily that we were just like doing a bunch of unchecked illegal shit and we're just like doing the Joel Salatin thing of like, I should be able to get away with it. So anyhow, where did we leave off? Oh yeah. It's funny. That's the next sentence. Joel Salatin's most famous book is called Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. His entire public career has been built on the argument that USDA inspection requirements for small farms are, his word, tyranny. I don't agree with. Yeah, I don't agree with Joel on that. No, USDA inspection are like there's a reason we're doing that, right? He testified before Congress about it. He's written 17 books about it. Every single one of his books talks about how things basically shouldn't be regulated. It's like he never read Upton Sinclair and doesn't give a shit. He described food safety inspection services as having successfully annihilated most community-based, appropriately sized abattoirs and criminalized on-farm processing. There is some truth to that. Yeah, the need to get a USDA button makes it difficult, like relatively difficult to set up something, but like difficult in the sense of you have to come up with a business plan and you have to be able to raise the money to put this thing together. There's nothing to stop, say, for example, a community, however the hell you want to define that, as pooling the money to put together a slaughterhouse and to get the zoning requirements necessarily to do so, and to build and have an FSIS medallion on a slaughterhouse facility. You just have to do it. You can't just be some fucking guy in the valley who decides he wants to set up a for-profit, this is just not like it. It would actually have to be a community enterprise. And Joel, as much as he talks about community-based agriculture, does not do community-based agriculture. He is a fucking straight-up capitalist. So he's trying to have his cake and eat it too, and it's kind of bullshit. So anyway, he calls this by far the major impediment to local integrity of food. The piece attacking Newman for food safety violations is defending the man who wrote the manifesto, arguing those violations should be legal. That's never thought about that before. That's interesting. Res Traditio does not mention this. Let me answer a few more questions here. Excuse me. I'm sorry to lose my voice. I'm sorry. Let me plug in my camera real quick. Turn that up ever so slightly. Do you ship to Michigan? Love your content. Also, this is unrelated, but any thoughts on these geriatric suits in office dropping like flies? I mean, they were bound to die eventually. They're all fucking 75, 80 friggin' years old. Like, worst generation ever. Won't retire. Won't let anybody else determine their own destiny. They're just, they can't die fast enough. I'm so sorry. Danny Witness 3066 asks, how do I get your chicken to Chicago? Right now, you cannot, because we just don't ship that far, and even if we did, we don't have the stock for it yet. We've gotta grow a lot. The other one said, bro, I'll literally pay for a 5-minute convo whenever it works best for you. What's up? Yahawada. Send me an email, because believe it or not, I respond to most of my emails. That's why it takes so long for me to get to some emails, because I do actually respond to almost every single email I get. And I have dispensed, if you're looking for like a 5-minute conversation, I can give you some information in an email. So hit me up at Chris at blackbirdcoop.com. Benita222 asks, hey, what do you think will come after Trump? Will it be a return to the neoliberal world of the 1990s and 2000s, right populism, left resurgence? Honestly, I have no idea. After Trump got elected a second time, I stopped pretending to have any idea what the hell people in this goddamn country are going to do politically. Who the fuck knows? I'm sure there will be a desire to return to some degree of not feeling like you're living through historic events every single day. So somebody like a Gavin Newsom might get elected. I don't know. Or J.D. Vance becomes president because he starts distancing himself from Trump and he's not Gavin Newsom. I don't know what people are like. At this point, I'm kind of beyond giving a shit and trying to predict what people are going to do. And I'm going to vote for whoever is the least fascist. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to keep my nose on the grindstone and do the best I can to protect the people who are around me, because that's the best I can do. Tristan Judd has just discovered you this week and have been dying laughing ever since. We disagree on almost everything politically, but I just wanted to thank you, the drivers, and all the other workers for the job you do. God bless and be safe. Thank you. Appreciate you. Fabricator General Larry, greetings, fleshy mammal. Greetings to you, fellow fleshy mammal. Velocity Raptor. Shit, why does it always scroll me all the way down? There it is. Just moved to Baltimore. Is it worth it for you to sub? We deliver to Baltimore every single week. So yes, go to www.blackbirdcoob.com and we have a flat delivery fee to Baltimore of $14. Whether you order 1 dozen eggs or 300 pounds of meat, it's the same delivery fee. And we're usually there every Thursday or Friday. Miss Kale Dragon asks, have you tried chicken jerky? No, I have not. The Electric Bridge, how did you build your clientele outside of word of mouth and farmers markets where there are lots of cold calls and rejection? Love your content. For wholesale stuff, yes. We've moved a lot out of wholesale because honestly, the farm to table restaurant business is kind of a lot of bullshit. Chefs lie like a motherfucker. And I've found my name on way too many menus where somebody bought something from us one time and then a year later they're still using our name to drum up business and like actively talking about us like we're still selling to them. So there's a few bakeries and a few butcher shops and stuff like that I sell to. In the beginning in 2013 when I started, there were a lot of cold calls. I got laughed at a lot. I got hung up on a lot. You develop a thick skin very, very quickly in sales. But the way I built my market was mostly through social media. I mean, social media is a godsend for businesses like mine because it's free advertising as long as you can create something that's engaging and relatable and that it presents information that people actually want. So if you've got the gift of being able to tell stories and hold people's attention and be funny or witty or interesting or informative or whatever, social media it's better than traditional advertising. It's better than media advertising. It's better than farmers markets. It's like you can't beat it. You cannot get that big an audience that is within your control to reach in any other way. Let's see. Fabricator General Larry says, greetings from Australia. Greetings. What freaking time is it in Australia? It's shit. I need to go to bed soon, y'all. Let's see. What advice would you give to a trans guy to learn how to be the best version of whatever being a man is? Honestly, I don't know if the path to kind of spiritual fulfillment is necessarily gendered. I look for most of that, for me, like the Tao Te Ching is almost like my Bible, right? On like how to, it's, I think the subtitle is like the way to peace and power. I don't think there's any brackets that you could put around like what makes a man. In my cultural tradition, manliness could be, what a man was is what a man does. So if a man engages in diplomacy and warfare, that's what a man does. If a man helps the woman pound corn and sow fields, that's what a man does. There's no should in native cultural traditions, and those are the traditions I was brought up in. So like, the path to being a man is more about being at peace with yourself and knowing who you are and what you like and kind of where your energy flows and not trying to be something and bridge the gap between whatever that thing is and what you are. It's knowing what the hell you are and being that. So that's the best advice I could offer, I think. Nolady4917 asks, do you use crows to help combat birds of prey? Yes, we do everything we can to attract crows on our sites. So we'll put cracked corn out for them. That'll attract turkeys and other shit, but it'll also attract crows. Anything you can do to get crows hanging out near where you have chickens is, because they will beat the hell out of a hawk. It's fantastic. Likelihood of Lindsey Graham being poisoned by the KGB. That seems unlikely. I think homeboy just had a heart attack and fucking kicked the bucket because shit happens, man. Michelle Gray asks, what is your take on data centers and how it may affect farm water rights? I'm in Utah, so it's a subject close to me. Frankly, data centers is always where our version of runaway, morally detached capitalism was always headed. To the point where Jeff Bezos is now on the record saying that human beings are competing for natural resources with AI, which is a genuinely sociopathic fucking thing to say. And the fact that he's willing to say it out loud should terrify everybody. I think every data center should burn to the ground with a chip CEO inside of it. That's just how I feel. Water is for people and all our relations, not something to be enclosed by fucking data centers so that it can replace what people do and our entire reason for existing. Let's see, what else we got here? I had a wild turkey lay eggs on my lawn. When she leaves for the mail comes to security. What will happen if I take one? Will he attack me? Is it edible? I would not want to be attacked by a wild turkey. So I would leave it alone. And I would find like maybe a robin egg or something if you want to have some wild ass eggs. Swived asked, do you know anything about Canadian farming or husbandry standards? If so, how do you feel they compare to U.S. standards? I don't know much about Canadian agriculture. I'm not that dialed into the theory of how other countries necessarily do things. Canada's livestock systems are very, 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 very similar to the U.S.'s, though. But I could not describe whatever differences there are in detail. Let me go to here. Love your channel. I bust out laughing every time. In regards to the manosphere, the best things guys can do is say, screw that, do what they want to do, and like what they want to like. Live life as you want to. That is real. That is basically correct. I think there's always a danger in trying to say like this is what a man should be and should do. This is what a woman should be and should do. I have what I think a conservative take on this, or what should be a conservative take on this, which is about individual liberty. And you are responsible for how you express like whatever the fuck your manliness is, or your womanliness, or your they-them-liness is, or whatever. And as long as you're not fucking hurting anybody, who gives a shit? So yeah, I would mostly agree with that take, I think. Sarah Lee Lovelady says, your videos are entertaining and informative and often hilarious. Your facts on issues are on point. Most of all, thank you for setting the gold standard on how to run an ag business with integrity. Well, thank you so much. Kyle Donovan says, my dad became a Commanders fan. Been here since 96. I tried to get in some Jags. I'm assuming a Commanders fan. I came back to the Commanders after they finally changed that goddamn god-awful name. And then I stopped watching football because football became impossible to watch. Because you have like 9 different subscriptions to 9 different networks. And I'm not working that hard and paying that much money to watch football that used to be free. So fuck that. Let's see. Next. Maggie Damson says, nurse here. I really love your content since you are a farmer. I'm wondering if you could help me understand why farmers never seek medical attention. Never seek medical attention unless they're practically dead. It's because a lot of farmers live very far away from medical facilities. There's waits. A lot of us aren't necessarily insured. For a lot of things that are wrong with us, like, if you like get hit in the head or like sprain something or whatever, like the last thing we want to do is take 2 hours out of our day to go to an urgent care or something to be told like put ice on it and take Tylenol or whatever. Like we could have figured that out on our own. So yeah, like usually for us to go to the hospital or seek medical care, something has to be like chopped off or not working or like dislocated or something for it to be worth the time to fuck off. Because otherwise, you get a concussion and you think the doctor's just going to tell you, don't read, don't strain your brain, don't like focus on anything, just like get rest, but don't fall asleep. Then we're just gonna We're just gonna fucking do that at home and save ourselves 2 hours. Now, is that necessarily what we should be doing? No. But in a country like ours that does not have affordable or universal health care, you can hardly blame somebody in rural America for not wanting to take the gamble. Let's see. Kira forever says, I will be in DC for the Indy race. I would love to cook for your farm like that angry abuelita with with love, Bodega Titi. If we had a kitchen at the freaking butcher house, I swear to God, I would take you up on that. Unfortunately, our farm isn't like a family farm where there's like a farmhouse on the farm, and you would come here and you would cook, and it would like, no, I live in I mean, it's not quite a subdivision, but it's kind of a subdivision, and it's not on the farm. The farm is like 5 minutes up. Well, one farm is 5 minutes up the road. Another farm is another 5 minutes up the road. So I appreciate the offer. And if I can ever take you up on it, I absolutely would, because I know Mason in particular would appreciate it. Next, greetings from the UK. I'm doing a PhD focused on liver fluke. So just out of curiosity, do you have to deal with them in the cows on your farm, and what do you do to tackle it? So we've never dealt with anything like that. On our place when we had cattle, I'm not personally raising cattle right now. We're buying them from a neighbor that I know really well up the road. We're basically her biggest customer right now, and we've made her life very easy. And as far as I know, she hasn't had to deal with it. But I'll look at that and see if she has. But I don't think that's much of an issue around here. But I'd have to check. Catch My Whiff asks, is water sequestration a viable option for farms? For homesteads, maybe. For farms, it depends on the type of farm, depends on what the water table situation is, where's the water coming from. Like, water isn't that big of an issue here in Virginia, where there's plenty of rainfall and like sandy, loamy soils, except for the clay that's out where they were doing way too much tobacco and shit. So it's never been something I've really had to worry about or look into. When you talk about water sequestration at the scale for commercial farms that feed millions of people, that's an ask. That's usually more of a like homestead permaculture kind of discussion than a commercial agriculture discussion. Tiago Ogden asks, strengths and weaknesses of management of agricultural corporation. Strengths and weaknesses of management of agricultural corporation and dealing with racism of the left and right. Love your videos. I don't run into that much racism just by design. Like I said, I keep a halo of white partners around me to deal with aspects of society that may present racist outcomes. So I never had to find out if I'm going to be a statistic when I go to the bank or the FSA or wherever the fuck. So I don't know. You know, it's like what Mr. Miyagi said: best way to avoid punch, no be there. So I'm not there. Management with agricultural. Do you mean corporation or cooperation? Yeah, I might be getting that one wrong. Let me move on to the next one real quick, though. Faust Love says, I have a useless farm in Indiana. My animals are all from neglect or just bad situations. I have way too many chickens. Would you take them? I could not. We don't we don't have the time, the space, the energy, anything to basically be a animal rescue. No, I'm so sorry. And then the last person here asks, that's what propane and flat top is for. Fair. I'm also Muskogee and Redex. We bring our kitchen with us. I mean, hit up Mason at blackbirdcoop.com because he's in charge of all that. I'm never there. So I wouldn't be the one to make that decision anyway. Yeah, hit up Mason. I'm curious what he'd say. Mason's always down to have somebody cooking for him. So there's like 9 big hungry dudes that would love to be fed on 3 Mondays out of the month. So yeah, they wouldn't be mad at you. Anyhow, I think that's the last of the supers. So let me run over here back to this essay real quick. See the collapse. So looks like this is getting into the part where my first co-op collapsed. Let's see, the collapse. The collapse of Sylvan Aqua was real and it was serious. 400 broiler chickens rotted in warm water for 5 days. It wasn't 400, it was like 50, but that was gross as hell. And that's the thing I was talking about, where they insisted on slaughtering those chickens anyway. Did so without me, stuck a bunch of them in a cooler, and then shoved that cooler into a walk-in fridge that was not actually functioning. Let's see, an operation that is scaled to 15 employees, 6-year-long leases, 1,500 broilers, 2,000 laying hens, 200 pigs, and 13 cows ran out of money. Workers were fired and lost housing. Newman's management failed in ways that hurt people who had trusted him. Here's what Res Traditio does with this. He concludes that the cooperative farming model is therefore wrong, that family farms are therefore vindicated, and that Salatin was therefore right all along. This logic requires believing that the failure of one undercapitalized first attempt at a new model is evidence that the model is impossible. It is not. It is evidence that building a cooperative farming operation from scratch on leased land with insufficient capital during a pandemic is hard. Fair. Newman said it was hard. His essay said it was hard. His argument was that it requires collective resources and structural support, the exact things he didn't have. That is accurate. The one piece of testimony Res Traditio relies on most heavily is from Xandra Thornberry. Her name is fucking Kendra Berry, a former employee. It's worth reading in full because it does not say what Res Traditio implies it does. Berry came to Sylvan Aqua homeless, having lived in a van for 3 years. That is kind of accurate. She was somebody who was basically LARPing at being homeless because she didn't want to go home. She had a home to go to and a perfectly loving family, but she just wanted to be a hippie instead. Newman gave her his driveway and a job. When her partner left and she had a breakdown, Newman sent her on a paid vacation. Yes, we did. When her brother was committed by their mother, Newman took him in on the farm. Yes, I did, and I really shouldn't have. When she accrued fines driving an unregistered farm vehicle. So this was their own vehicle. So like when they decided to form their own company, we decided we were going to do a co-op, basically. Like they were going to operate a farm as its own business. I was going to operate the processing facility and the marketing thing, because like they really wanted to do shit on their own way. I should have said, no, fuck you. Like, you got to learn from me first, but fucking COVID. So I let them do it. I loaned them money to start themselves up. And the first thing they did was buy a bunch of vehicles that they decided they could get around having to register them by slapping farm use tags on. And then they drove these things around, vehicles that were clearly not farm vehicles, like a goddamn 1990 Jeep Cherokee with tinted out windows that were always smoking weed in. Needless to say, they got pulled the fuck over, smelling like weed, in a friggin' hoopty with tinted windows with farm use tags on it, and they got busted for it. So then they accused me, since they used to actually drive around in vehicles that were farm use vehicles for doing farm work. The line was that I was exploiting them by having them drive illegal vehicles with farm use tags on them. So this is the shit I was dealing with. Anyhow, let's see where I leave off there. Newman paid some of those tickets. The conditions were brutal. The operation was chaotic. The management collapsed. And at the end of her account, Berry does not call Newman a villain. She says, I let down my community. I took part in abusing the land. I abused my coworkers. I let myself down. Yeah. If this is the strongest evidence against Newman, someone's not paying attention. Newman had every business reason to hire someone housed, experienced, and uncomplicated, which is something I do now. He hired a homeless woman, gave her a driveway, and tried to build something too big with too little. That is something I do not do anymore. That is a different story from the one Res Traditio tells. That is wild. I gotta read that shit. Let's see. The witness Res Traditio forgot to quote in full. There's a second account of the Sylvan Aqua collapse. Res Traditio linked it. They should not have. It was by Sarah Mock, that fucking bitch, who worked with and for Sylvan Aqua from February 2020 and was present for the final crisis. She describes the collapse in clinical detail, 4 separate operational systems that were meant to interoperate from April 1st and did not. The field team undertrained and overworked, a processing collapse that destroyed 400 broiler chickens, and then Newman walking away. I didn't walk away so much as the co-op people told me to fuck off, which I did, and then the inevitable happened. The specific accusations against Newman and Mock's account are worth naming precisely because they're different from what res traditio implies. Newman, quote, fired himself from the marketing team mid-crisis, left a processing employee with less than 6 weeks of experience in charge of an entire system, announced he was taking the rest of the month off, and shortly after announced on Instagram that he planned to start a new farm. While the people he'd hired were in crisis, again, these were people I had hired, but then insisted on starting their own business and explicitly would not let me help them. Like, that has to be kind of emphasized. So when you start something with people who are employees, they want to run things their way. They want to do things independently. I make the mistake of letting them. They literally formed their own business that they were in charge of. Like, I could not tell them what to do because it was their fucking business. So yeah, when they won't accept help, like, framing that as me walking away is like, what am I supposed to do? Like, kick the door down and like declare that I'm in charge of something that legally I'm not. So yeah, that was a bit self-serving on her part, but Sarah Mock was like actively trying to steal my work about small farms anyway. When employees began building collective structures in his absence, the first full team meeting the organization ever held, Newman returned and at what was supposed to be a collaborative planning session, publicly fired 4 members of the cohort. Those members lost their jobs and their housing on the same day. That's not true. No feedback was requested and none was given. Yeah. So basically, how did this go? They were doing such a bad job at feeding the animals. I will never forget this. One of them said that the animals were underfed, which was making them sad, and they were sad because the animals were underfed. And it felt like that fat bastard thing from Austin Powers, where it's like, I'm unhappy because I eat, and I eat because I'm unhappy. Apparently that had been going on for a while, and one of their people basically said they knew that when I found out what the conditions in the field were, because I was off like working on the processing operation, marketing, trying to figure out how to pay for all this shit. They were running the farm independently. Apparently they were discussing among themselves that the second I found out what the conditions of the animals were in the fields, that I was going to find a way to cut ties with everybody. And so instead of doing what they needed to do, they were like smoking weed and having these like fuck around sessions where they were talking about what they would do if that happened. And that would involve lighting hen mobiles on fire and releasing pigs into the woods and like creating an ecological disaster and all this other shit. And it was so bad that one of their own people dropped a dime on them. And so he dropped that dime the night before we were supposed to have this meeting that we're talking about, this like collaborative planning session or whatever. So like, yeah, I'm not going to have a collaborative planning session with a bunch of people who's like, who are like, we're going to light animals on fire if we don't get our way. And if we don't get to keep starving animals and doing shitty ass shit. So yeah, that's what I did. I came in and I didn't fire everybody. I basically said, I'm not working with you anymore. Because again, they owned their own company. They had their own money. They had burned all of it doing stupid shit and buying cars they didn't need and letting feed go to waste and all this other crap. But they ran their own thing. I was basically the person that was going to market all their shit because they didn't want to do the marketing. They just wanted to like play in the dirt. So I said, no, y'all can like find something else to do with your fucking animals or whatever, but like absolutely fucking not. Like, I'm not working with y'all. Y'all are freaking crazy. Like, this is like, I've had enough. This has been going on for way too long. They were not homeless. I told them, so they had like a beautiful lake house that I'd rented for them or whatever. Because none of them had any credit or rental history and shit like that. So I had to secure it for them. I told them that they could like take 30 days or 45 days or however long they needed to figure out like what the hell was next if they weren't going to keep farming. They decided to leave like that day and bounce down to my cousin's place and like try to create this incident that I'm sure gets talked about later. So no, that's not exactly accurate. They were that they were fired and then had nowhere to go and lost their housing. That's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. Mock describes a consistent pattern of "don't worry about it and I'll take care of it" that kept employees in the dark until everything collapsed. I mean, yeah, but that wasn't from me to them. That was from them to me. She describes an organization that was outwardly all about democracy, but inwardly offered essentially no opportunities to be part of the bigger team. Yeah, again, that was their attitude towards me. I would try to offer mentorship, advice, technical shit, and they were like, "Fuck you, we want to do this on our own." Democracy. I was overruled. So she describes philosophical divides handled by isolation rather than resolution. Yes, that is true. She does not spare herself either. I don't agree with that. She stayed longer than she should have. She accepted internal assurances. She was silenced when she raised concerns, and her silence created space for bad actions to continue. She refused payment for her final month. So generous. Then she writes this: "To be clear, the failures of Sylvan Aqua Farms are not an indictment of the system of collective agriculture. Instead, they're a useful lesson in what is actually needed to build such a system." That is accurate. And this, Chris Newman articulated a truly transformative vision for a different kind of farm and food system that not only inspired me, but which inspired thousands of others to believe something else is possible too. That voice and idea is an incredible gift and a powerful tool, and one that this community needs. And that is one that Sarah Mock then tried to like take for herself and run with. And then I destroyed her career because I had receipts. But anyway, the woman who was the most present, most professional, and most honest about Newman's specific failures also wrote the clearest statements of what those failures mean and what they do not mean. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, because like Sarah Mock and Sarah Tabor both leaned into these like, so basically people were asking like, if this guy was so toxic for so long, what the hell were you doing there for so long? And both of them leaned into this like weird mid-century semi-racist, like, I was taken in by popularity and by the charming black man and lost sight of my virtue. Like that fucking bullshit. That's been getting black dudes hanged like forever. So whatever. Yeah, Res Judicio linked this document. They chose not to quote those conclusions. That is not journalism, that is selection. The polyface model, which Res Judicio holds up as the vindicated alternative, has a specific set of structural requirements that Salton does not advertise in his books. It requires land you did not buy. Salton inherited his. Newman married into access to his wife's parents' land and called it hitting the lottery. The people who follow Salton's advice and try to buy land are working against mathematics Salton has never personally faced. It requires an established customer base built over decades. Polyface has 5,000 families and 50 restaurants. This did not happen in 1 year. To be fair, Joel, in his weird-ass whining entitlement essay, also says that it took him a long time to build that up. The young farmers reading Salton's books and trying to replicate his model do not have 50 restaurant accounts waiting for them. It requires below-market labor. One commenter in a farming forum noted plainly that his model wouldn't be sustainable using market-price labor at the scale he uses interns and apprentices. The 2019 intern cohort, whose summer labor was worth $200,000 combined, each was paid $500, is the mechanism that makes Polyface's economics function. This is not advertised. It requires a platform. Salton's books and speaking fees are not incidental to Polyface's financial model. They are structural and necessary. A farmer following his advice without a book deal is not replicating Polyface. They are attempting something Salton himself has never done. Anyhow, let me go back to a few more of these. Again, I'm going to try to get to as many of the super chats as I can. I cannot possibly respond to every single one of the comments that's not here. Where do I leave off? Where do we leave off? DC for the indie race, Greens for the UK, the fluke thing, strengths and weaknesses, and useless farm. About how long will it take all to sell chicken and beef to Florida? Also, I think you're awesome. Thank you so much. Florida is probably going to be at least 2 years. Yeah, look for that in 2028. I tuned in 2 hours later and you're still online. Yes, Jen, I am still online. Jen R. Jones is one of my oldest customers from back in the day when I used to deliver in a parking lot in Centerville. Let's see. EA Calvert, stupid question. I'm in Virginia and you're within driving distance if we can make it out during business hours, my neurospicy tiny human wants to know if he can hug a chicken. Sorry if this is too long. We would not be able to allow them to hug a chicken because of biosecurity concerns. We're still worried about the bird flu. The bird flu is real in spite of the fact that large egg corporations were using the bird flu as an excuse to raise prices for no reason. So yeah, unfortunately, we cannot have people come onto the farms. However, we do have a shop that is open from Tuesday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. In Colonial Beach, where people can come buy stuff in person. Buyer beware, I'm usually not there. Let's see. Anonymous asks, have you thought about running for office? No, I get asked that a lot. I think I'll be more influential, powerful, and effective as a major employer in the region and not as a politician, like one among many, many, many politicians and just one vote among many of them, because I do not think I would be particularly persuasive to politicians. Call me lazy or stupid, but how do we find places that do what you do? I'm near Detroit, not sure what to look for. I would look at blackfarmersindex.com, I believe. They have a state-by-state listing of farmers who use methods pretty similar to mine. Let's see, what's the lore for the blue pumpkin up to the... Oh yeah, so this used to be my kid's room. This is now my... This is now my office, but it used to be my kids' room. That is a leftover shelf from when my kids had bunk beds that were right up there, and their Halloween candy and Easter baskets and shit used to be up there. Hello, nice hat. Thank you. I bought this at a little shop in Annapolis when I had a vacation like 2 years ago. Let's see. Good, get 500 something. Probably not dollars. Oh man, perfect ASMR while I work. You are welcome. DW9420 says, hello from Crozet near Seaville. Yes, we deliver to Crozet every week. Thank you for your authentic and highly entertaining content. Do you guys keep other fowl for fun like ducks, peacocks, or other prehistoric looking chickens? Mason does. Mason has guineas. He's got random turkeys that he has no intention of slaughtering. Random collections of hens that are kind of like showbirds or whatever. I do not. And the commercial farms do not, but Mason does, because Mason loves that kind of thing. Let's see. Lab grown drums. Just found you. Love your content. Keep it up. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Corazon de Melon 69. But do you ship to Michigan though? Pet treats, yes. Merch, yes. Food does not go to Michigan yet. I'm so sorry. Let's see. Galen Hour 8628 asks your opinion on the disdain of urban liberals toward rural areas, writing off red states as backward, lost causes to the detriment of minorities there. I'm a leftist in New England and see this a lot. Yeah. So as much as I think people in urban, in urban areas like to say that what's wrong with rural people is that they fear what's different, and that's what drives like whatever is supposedly wrong with people in rural areas. The opposite is absolutely true. People in cities develop the same kind of contempt and othering of people in rural areas that they accuse people in rural areas of developing towards them. I mean, my opinion of it, I think, I grew up. I was born and raised in DC. I'm kind of a city boy. The house that I'm in now was my uncle's house. My parents bought it to settle his estate shortly before he died. And I started coming down here on weekends when I was like my oldest daughter's age. So like I've always kind of existed in both worlds a little bit, because I'd come down here on the weekends. I'd be in the city during the week. People in rural areas are not. Let me put it this way. You ever hear like white people saying wild shit about black people? Of course you do. There was some survey that basically said that, I forget what the hell it was, but something like 75 or 80% of white people never, ever have real interactions with black people. And that most of their opinions on who black people are and what we do and what we're like and all this shit are basically media driven. urban, right? And I think the same dynamic is at play when it comes to how urban people and rural people look at each other. Most people in cities do not interact with rural people, and most rural people don't interact on a day-to-day basis, or very often at all, really, with people who live in cities and people who are very different from them. So what they're left with is these caricatures of what they are, and that shit is toxic. It's dehumanizing. It levels people into these cartoons of idiosyncrasies and whatever, like, so it makes you think that rural people are just these uneducated, poor, dumb jackasses who just perennially vote against their own interests and are backward and stuck in time or whatever. And then rural people look at the city as like this weird, flashy Star Wars universe where people have penises but call themselves women, and everything is really weird, and people are speaking languages they never heard, and it's fucking scary, and blah blah blah. And it's all media caricatures that are designed to make somebody rich who is neither group. And that's kind of the fucked up part about it. It is remarkably easy to talk to people, even in a deep red county like the one I'm in, even about difficult things like politics. I can't tell you how many like blue collar guys around here who are HVAC techs and welders and marine construction workers and shit, who I've been able to have honest and mind-changing conversations around people like Donald Trump and around like alt-right populism. And around subject like this, like discussions you just can't have on the internet because there's not a person there. It's words on a fucking screen. It's all pixels and shit. Like you can't reach out and touch them. You can't see them. You can't smell them. You can't see them fidget. You can't see their eyes. You can't feel their humanity. So they're not a person when they're presented through media. But in real life, they can be surprisingly easy to talk to and easy to convince and easy to level with. So I think what has happened is, and this is, I think I wrote about this in my book, or I might have written about it in a part that I pulled out because it wasn't related enough to farming. But I think those kind of deep ties that I've been privileged enough to have with people who are kind of fundamentally different from me, but not so different. I think a lot of that has been replaced by these like really superficial transactional ties that we have just by having conversations on the internet where nobody's really listening and everybody's just fucking responding. And I think the only way to get away from that and get away from the caricatures that we paint of one another is to actually talk to each other directly. And not in like the Jubilee, like, because like I've talked about shit like Jubilee and like what Destiny does, and there's all these like Dean Withers and like all these other fucking people, like they set up these confrontational things where they're not talking to you, they're just fucking sparring with you. Like like I grew up boxing and doing taekwondo and shit like that. Like it reminded me of like sparring with somebody whose name you don't even know. They're just a target that you're just going to hit at to try to sharpen up your jab or your friggin' your spin kick or whatever. But at the end of the day, you don't give a fuck who they are, or what they're scared of, or what they want, or what their dreams are, or what dreams have been shattered by who the fuck knows what. So no, we're genuine connections between different people have been replaced by these shitty ass contrived for-profit confrontations between people, and it fucking sucks. And I don't know, maybe one day when we run out of fossil fuels and we can't power the internet over anymore, it'll be over. Or maybe not, who the fuck knows. But yeah, that's what I think about that, I guess. What else we got here? Oh wait, hold on one second. Shit, it's almost midnight. I'm gonna try to speed through the rest of these super chats. I'm not gonna be able to finish the essay. I'm so sorry. I think I was near the end. False. I was not near the end. Oh wait, was I? Oh no, I was near the end. Oh no, I'm not near the end. I have to do that on another live. Let me try to speed through the rest of the super chats because I do promise to try to get through all these. Michigan, the disdain of rural people, blah blah blah. Do you have a recommendation for someone who lives in Texas who would like to purchase a product like yours? Do you have plans to deliver down here? Texas someday, probably within the next 3 to 5 years. For now, go to the Texas section of the blackfarmersindex.com. Have you ever seen the black Indonesian breed Kalam Ayam Simani? Thoughts? No, I have not. I'm assuming that's a chicken breed, but I'm not sure. I kind of focus on the hybrids and the commercial varieties. Zirconis Ibn Laki says, I would like to thank you for the content. I appreciate all that you do. I do not want to be a farmer. That is one of the most important realizations you can possibly have. Do you have a lot of boomsticks on the farm? Not a lot. There's several shotguns, not many pistols, a couple of long rifles in case you got to reach out and touch something, but nothing excessive. Let's see, Comb the Desert. My entire family loves your content and style of humor. Thanks for the laughs. Thank you so much. William Matz, 1991, asks, have you been tormented by the weird oil Asian lady person? You have successfully made me die due to laughter. Yes. Somebody sends me one of her videos like every single day, and she lives in the back of my head, and it drives me absolutely insane. William Matz, 1991, asks, want to flex on stream for us? Sure. Look, here's my belly. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to get kicked off of here doing shit like that. Anyway, I appreciate you, though. I'm not very, I'm old. I'm 44. Y'all want to see that shit. Y'all should pay me to keep my clothes on. Let's see. Peaceful Vibes Reiki. As a new small business owner, I appreciate you and value your time. Advices and guidance for small business owners starting out. Keep inspiring and shining your light into the darkest places. Thank you. I appreciate you. Do you have pets? Has a farm animal been converted into a pet? A farm animal was sort of kind of converted into a pet. It was this white leghorn that we got on accident. We named her Lucky Butt because she almost got caught by a fox. The fox got all of her tail feathers out, but didn't quite get her before my wife, barefoot and wearing a caftan, chased it off. It's the countryest shit I've ever seen in my life. But other than that, I have 2 cats named Ralph and Gary and a 14-year-old pit bull named Minnie. Let's see. El Dulce asks, if all things go well, where do you see yourself when you retire? So if I'm lucky, I will be able to quote unquote retire probably in my mid 50s. At which point I will have to crowbar myself off of my farm operations. I will be in this house. I will be dedicated to basically remodeling and re-engineering this house. It will stand for another 100 years. And most of my dreams involve fishing and hunting and smoking cigars and drinking nice bourbon and hanging out with my wife. I'm a very simple man. That's all I want. Very easy retirement. Let's see. You should make candy shaped like livestock. If only I had that talent. Thank you so much. Vidal says, but I like Destiny, one of the few people along with you whose political stances I can find merit with. Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, I don't like Destiny, Good Trouble, like all these guys. Like I don't think they're bad people at all, but like there's just even like, you know, what's his name? Isaiah Martin. Isaiah is the black dude with the glasses. It looks like my homeboy out of Baltimore. Like these guys have done this thing that they are not responsible for, that I think was started more by people like Newt Gingrich, like when I was a kid. People who are promoting the idea that scoring political points and that politics in general is more important than governing. This is something that originally used to be like the kind of the neoconservative playbook, because they started that shit. And even people like, you know, Jeff Flake and John McCain like admitted that like we started it and then Democrats jumped on it and we've been going down this death spiral ever since. You know, I did a video a while back where I tried to explain to some people why why people in rural America vote the way they do when it seems like they're directly voting against their quote unquote own best interest. And I try to tell people that political discourse in this country now has turned political parties into something like sports teams. And if you know anything about sports and people who are really into sports, they will root for a home team that sucks because it's the home team. Like ask any long-suffering like Detroit Lions fan or Chicago Bears fan or Cleveland Browns fan who like buys season tickets every year, watches coach after coach make terrible decisions, bad owners, bad front offices, bad GMs, like all this shit. Like, you see your home team doing stupid, self-destructive, fucked up shit. And but you still root for them because like that's the home team. Like you have memories associated with that team. Like I remember when I was coming up, everybody was a Washington football fan, like in spite of the goddamn name, until like, a lot of people started getting older and realizing like what the issues with the name were and how they were actually manifesting in real life and fucking us over. But like, I still remember when Washington won its last Super Bowl in 1991. I remember where I was. I remember who I was with. I have all these like deep memories about being with family and like the feelings that were around it and like how safe it felt and everybody was rallying around this same fucking thing. And I think people have started to feel that way about politics. Like they feel like, being a Democrat or Republican is about like what the home team is and what the other team is, and not about who's making the best decisions for society and who's doing the best job at governing. A lot of people, I think most people that I know who vote Republican or vote Democrat just couldn't consider voting the other way because it's just so damn foreign. It would be like me being a Phillies, like an Eagles fan. Like it's like I'd rather lose with Washington forever than put on an Eagles jersey. And like that's how people are. That's how people are around politics now. And I think people like Destiny, like Dean, and people like Isaiah and Good Trouble and like all these other guys who are like, Pearl Mania, like all these guys. I think they contribute to that. They contribute to this idea that politics is this team sport and not about governing, and not about reaching people where they are and finding like whatever humanity you can find in people. So I don't know. That's my issue with them. I think they're part of the problem, even if I quote unquote agree with their so-called political stances. What they're doing, I think, is making things worse and not better. We try to do the last few fan-funded chaps, and I really do have to go the fuck sleep. Let's see. As I'm exhausted, and I think I've lost my voice now. Oh wait, that was the last one. Okay, here we go. Well, everybody, it's been nice being here with y'all for the last 2.5 hours. Oh shit, there's one more. Thank you. There's one more. I mean, be an asshole. I'm sorry. So, do you like the name commanders, or do you think they should go back? Also, any help getting the idea of a peacock out of my wife's head? I will answer those in turn. The R word name. So like the Redskins thing, right? Like, I will tell you this: if I'm at a powwow and I'm dressed in my fancy dance regalia and I'm doing my thing, and somebody walks up to me and they are not native, and you call me a Redskin, I will beat you until you stop moving. So like the word is a slur, right? That's just the way it is. Like you will show up. You'll show up to a powwow and you call somebody a Redskin, and one of those native people will beat the shit out of you, and they might be wearing a Redskins jacket. Like That's how goddamn complicated it is. And yet that's how not complicated it is. Because if you go to an NWA concert and you're white and you go up to somebody and you call them a nigga, then somebody wearing a niggas with attitude shirt will beat your ass for saying the N-word. So like it's like that. So when people are like, you know, the fucking some like Dene High School or whatever calls themselves the R word or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's an in group out group thing. It's like I get to have sex with my girlfriend, you don't. Fuck you. Like, why do you need to be able to say it so bad? What is wrong with you? We say it as kind of like a pressure valve, because the alternative, it's just like joking about slavery. Like I joke about slavery because the alternative is for me to hate you. Right? So, you know, this is my way of coping with it while still being able to treat you as a goddamn human being. And the R word is somewhat similar. So that's what that is. I appreciated the Washington football team thing. Like when they went through that like purgatory period when they dropped the R word and they were just like the Washington football team for a minute. Like I thought that was kind of dope. Like they just had the numbers on the side of the helmets or whatever. Like it had this like European football kind of feel to it. Like it was kind of cool. Like not really having a name. Like it was just WFT. Like there was something kind of classy about it, which I enjoyed. So yeah, Commanders like whatever. It's a name. It's there, but I don't know. I wish they didn't. And the second part of that question was hold. Oh yeah, any help getting the ideas of a peacock out of my wife's head? Yeah, ask your wife if she enjoys constant angry calls from neighbors about your birds being in the road, in their driveways, on top of their car, on top of their house, and shitting all over everything, and being asked to pay you to clean it up. That'll maybe cure her of it, but probably won't, because some people got to learn the hard way. Somebody asked follow-up question: what's your bourbon of choice? Side note: can't focus on two worlds. Mine can only stretch so much. My go-to bourbon, like my quote-unquote rail bourbon, is going to be Woodford. A little bit better than that, I enjoy Blanton's. I enjoy Four Roses, single barrel. I enjoy Maker's 47. I think those are three I have up there now. And I've got a Whistle Pig 10-year that I don't love, but it'll do the trick. How long have you been rocking that glorious mustache? Probably since spring, maybe a little longer. I forget. I'd have to go back in I just started like playing with it and it just turned into that. And now there it is forever and ever. And finally, El Dulce says, here's $10, go to bed, which I'm going to do right now. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for participating in my fundraiser for the Chicken Processing Factory of the Future. We will do this again next Sunday. I appreciate everybody. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Bye-bye.